welcome to Eden Fractal, meeting number 58. It's great to be here with y'all. Thanks for watching, thanks for joining. Today is Wednesday, July 12th. I'm here with good friends Duane, Eric, Lisa, Rosmari, Noam, and Red. Red's got some cool thing going on IPS 42 and like some spaceship or something like that. Eric is in front of the Center for Governance in Alien Worlds. We're going to be starting breakout rooms probably in about 10 minutes or so. And I'm also getting to the last minute presentation or getting a presentation for the recap of weekly weeks and some really cool videos and progress that's been made lately, as well as topics on the agenda. And we were just talking for about 15 minutes. It was a really interesting discussion and it made me think that maybe we should record it. Eric was talking about the open mic nights games he wants to start at Lisa's coffee shop. Shout out to Lisa and Lisa's coffee shop. And he's also talking about games for certifications and trainings and stuff like that, and growing practically. So I figure maybe we can pass it to Eric. If Eric, you want to provide a little recap about what you're just talking there, all the exciting stuff, and then after a little while, then I can share a presentation, and then we can get into the breakout rooms. What do you think, Eric?
Sure.
All right.
I'm a huge fan of event marketing because it forces dates and it forces people to basically take action. And so we're talking about the unconference as a great conference to share what we're doing here with fractals and governance and things like that. One of the events we want to have at the unconference is the open mic night. Why? Because it's teaching people about governance through fun. How do you do that? People show up, they get in front of the mic, they do whatever they want. We give them a limited time, and then we use the governance tools here to to pick a winner. And so that consensus group picking a winner teaches them about governance. So we want to try and do this before the unconference so that the unconference isn't our first run through, since we've never done anything like that before. So, and hopefully it becomes a regular event. So we want to do pick a date for open mic night, which will be at Lisa's coffee shop, which is at the top floor of the building behind me, the Center for Governance building on the planet Eyeke. And so we want to do open mic night there and pick a date. We also want to have governance discussion. So we're looking at having a governance panel basically to talk about governance. So talk about holacracies and technocracies and fractals and all those kind of issues. So we want to have people present and have an open discussion. So we need to pick that board because that's going to be part of what we're talking about at the unconference too, is governance. And we just kind of want to have some ideas of what we're talking about the governance. So, the last thing is we want to use all this information we're doing to create certifications. And so we're looking for a group of people that want to get together and build the design, to actually have a working group and build the design for the governance game, which takes everybody on how to facilitate using Zoom or any of the tools you want. Fractogram, we want to teach them how to moderate, and all the way up to negotiate, problem solving. And finally, we want people to be consultants and advisors and experts. So basically being a counselor for other people who need to know about government. So we're looking for those certifications. And it would be great if we could deliver those certifications through playing games that basically are put together in one big game. So hopefully I did a good job summarizing what we talked about, Dan.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much, Eric, for kicking us off and inspiring us. We spoke last week about the open mic nights and how we could use the Fractal PG games, the signals games that we've been pioneering here in Fractal, and hope everybody enjoy a fun experience and also learn how to cooperate better. So excellent introduction and also certification. Big shout out to Lisa. Also thanks to Rosmari and Duane. I know a lot of us have been talking about this, and Lisa's been leading that conversation in many ways too, and I'm in very much agreement. I'm really excited about this. I actually, previously we didn't have topics proposed going into the meeting today. And I'll remind everybody that you can post topics playing the cagendas game on the Eden Consortium. But I was working on some topics, and I also just made a couple of topics for certifications in social games and Lisa's coffee shop if we want to discuss this more, or open mic nights at Lisa's coffee shop rather. And I'll make one more about the roots of Eden. So if anyone wants to vote for their favorite topics, I'm pulling it up right now. As you were sharing that, I was also proposing on Consortium as well. But yeah, excellent introduction. Thank you so much, Eric. I can also share my screen to give a presentation and also a bit more information about what Eric was talking about the unconference that's coming up soon. Lisa's been organizing. We've spoken about it a few different times at Eden Fractal, and also about certification. I have lots of ideas about that. We can get in more. We're about 4 minutes away from the top of the hour, so we're going to go in breakout rooms in 4 minutes, maybe 5 or 6 minutes if we're a little bit delayed. If Eric, you want to add anything more there, thanks so much for that. If anyone wants to share any comments for Eric before we get into it, any quick comments, we can have a much more detailed discussion now that these topics are proposed after the breakout rooms. But if anybody wants to throw in anything pretty quickly, I see Duane also shared a comment here. Oh, and Duane shared a consortium poll. I will pull this up on the screen. If you want to introduce that, Duane, right now, then feel free, or we can get to it after the breakout rooms, and I can also add it to the introductory presentation.
Super quick. Eden has changed their focus a bit, and they do want to practice and participate in fractal meetings. So poll for us, our opinion, should they join us in Eden Fractal every Wednesday, or should we help them with their own fractal?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Duane, for sharing that. We were also discussing that a little bit before recording, and you shared some great ideas about that. Thanks so much for leading the way with that discussion. Really appreciate you making proposals, and really appreciate you and Eric both helping to lead discussion. And I agree. As a note, I've also been working with previous term chief delegates and gave a presentation with the tools. I think there's a great opportunity. They have working groups set up for the tech working group and media working group and stuff like that. And I think there's a great opportunity where we can both invite them here to Eden Fractal and have everybody enjoy it, and then also empower them with the Eden Fractal tools. So thanks so much, Duane. If you want anything else, then feel free, of course. But if not, we're already pretty close to time. So I will jump into a little presentation here to show everybody what's been going on lately. We have some exciting updates. We'll go into breakout rooms probably a couple minutes late, just so we can have time to share maybe a 2-minute presentation here. Just give a high-level overview. So welcome everybody, and thanks again for joining us. I'll also I don't know if Jorge just joined pretty recently, and Tadas. So welcome Jorge and Tadas. Thanks for joining. Thank you everybody for watching. This is Eden Fractal. Of course, if you want to learn more about Eden Fractal, go to edenfractal.com. This is edenfractal.com/welcome, which is still in development, learning about or to help people learn about Eden Fractal. And we have the homepage here where we talk about the games and the tools and the shows that we create and all the amazing stuff we're doing. I'm also working on updating the Zoom link RCP. I just created a new page on Luma, and that'll be updated soon after some feedback from last week because that page went down. A little bit of context as far as I mentioned the tools. You can go to edencreators.com/tools, and these are some tools that I think we can help Eden on EOS, which I can go into more detail, but I just pulled this up real quick because I heard that Duane was talking about it, and we have a lot of great tools. I recommend people check it out, as well as all the other stuff. And Eric had mentioned coordinating the open mic nights with the unconference. I have a little article here, and there's way more details. I think it's at interplanetaryunconference.com. Lisa, you can correct me if I'm wrong about that, but there's links here. And then you can see we've had some discussions and talked about this on previous Eden Fractal meetings and stuff like that too. So you can find out about that, and you can learn more about the Center for Governance that Eric's been talking about in a town hall episode from a while ago at edentownhall.com/35. Some updates from the previous week. So I've been working a lot with Rosmari. Huge shout out to Rosmari. She's been helping greatly with me at Eden Creators. She joined as CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, last month, and she's been helping create new thumbnails, which look really awesome, and also helping to make the show notes and stuff like that. We're catching up because we're a little bit behind with the anniversary. We had a lot of new stuff going on, which we explained in last week's meeting, which will be coming out shortly, the 57th meeting about the future of creative collaboration. And in this week, we just released the 56th video about gamifying public goods in our 4th public goods session, and how we use the Signals app again to rank the most fun and beneficial pitches. That's now up on the Eden Creators YouTube channel, as well as edenfractal.com/videos, and also the 3rd public goods session, Inventing Games for Public Goods, where you can learn more about how we jumped into the session and use the Signal app once again. We have some really cool art, which I like, and it's getting more and more fun. And we also have Signaling Alien Worlds, which currently isn't loading, but in the...
Okay.
It's like he ran back in.
All right. Hello. So I had an internet issue, and my apologies for that. I'll just jump back into the presentation, and also my audio was playing in the background. Was something you want to say to Lisa? Sorry, I cut you off.
It was just funny. It looked like you ran back into the scene. After you were gone.
I ran back because I opened my door because my Ethernet's broken right now and my Wi-Fi, the door was closed. Maybe that was getting in the way, so I ran back right in there. But anyway, welcome. Also, I see a couple people joined. I think I saw Vlad join. Was that correct? So welcome, Vlad. Good to see you. We're going to go into the breakout rooms in just a minute or two. I was just giving a brief update about the show notes that I've been working with Rosmari. Rosmari wrote a lot of these show notes, and we're working together to share stories about the fractaling recommendations that we made in week 54, and also the fractalians arriving to alien worlds, about featuring the recent progress of the alien worlds fractal happening every Monday at 15 UTC. Encourage people to check it out. And we also have the pitch sessions article, which has more details about these recent videos that we created that you can see on edenfractal.com/videos. In addition, you can also check that, of course, on the Eden Careers YouTube channel, where we're publishing all these. Also want to give a shout out to Rosmari and Gudasol, who did the second Community Stories podcast episode. And we also did an Eden Town Hall episode where we summarize a lot of recent updates with Eden Fractal, also with the Eden on EOS election and Fractalian Worlds. Lots of details you can see. Show notes at edentownhall.com/54 to learn more. And I just have a couple more things on here. There's a page where you can learn more about the Community Stories podcast. Of course, Gudasol is leading the Aqueduct community using the Eden Fractal social games, which is great to see. Highly recommend people check out the interview. And we've also been updating the edencreators.com/aqueduct article where you can learn more about all this great stuff. Recommend giving a like and a retweet to Rosemary's post there. I'll go pretty quick, and I'll also give a shout out to the Eden on EOS elections too, a topic that Duane brought up. We just had the Eden on EOS election on this Saturday. Congrats to Gabriel and Patrick and Mo. Lenny put out a video, or he tweeted out the Eden Fractal or the Eden Town Hall video that we did here. You can check out the interface and check out a video that Patrick cut over here, and to learn more about the election, as well as watch the video. And shout out to Duane too for creating documentation. We're going to go into cagendas, or actually we're going to go into the breakout rooms and play Eden plus Fractal, and then afterwards we're going to play cagendas. Anybody can propose a topic on Eden Consortium to help direct the discussion. We didn't have a topic going forward or going into this meeting, but now we have 3 that you can vote for. They're probably near the bottom of the meeting. I see somebody voted for here. Duane proposed a topic, Eden on EOS fractal meetings, that he just mentioned previously. Eden on EOS has suggested its delegates should attend weekly fractal governance meetups. Should they participate in weekly Eden fractal meeting on Wednesdays, or should we help them start their own fractal? Very much looking forward to getting into this discussion. We have a couple options here, and then I just put out a couple topics that Eric talked about: open mic nights at Lee's Coffee Shop with fractal consensus games, and also certifications in social games. Can go into more detail, but we're already a couple minutes back. I see Lisa giving a clap. Thank you very much, Lisa, and thank you everybody for watching and being here. If anybody has any quick comments you want to share before we get into it, then now is a great time. If not, I will start at the breakout rooms. And we have 2 rooms going on. The rooms are open, and I hope you all enjoy. Thank you for the claps, Rosmari. Thank you all.
Hello.
Hi. Do we have a 6th on the way, or can we start?
Then you muted.
Thank you. Yeah, we can start. Currently there's 10 people total and 5 in each room. Actually, yeah, 5 in each room. So
Okay.
we're good to go. Does anybody want to lead the conversation, host, moderate, or anybody want to go first? I could do it if you want, but if anybody wants to do it, that'd be cool. If you want to go talk and go lead it in any way you want, that'd be cool. Does anybody want to go first? I think, by the way, Vlad was onto something about having it where in the Alien Worlds fractal, like just the first person goes first, or the last person to go goes first. I think that's nice because it's nice to have a system, but also we can make it fun or gamify it in some way too. Like, I don't know, maybe there's some opportunity to explore. Like we play a little game, decide who goes first, so like it's like fun and exciting in some way. I don't know, or maybe if you go first, there's more to win or something.
That is gamification. Right now, for example, I tried to click as fast as possible the join room.
Oh, okay. There you go. Because you didn't want to go first.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that works. Maybe we could make that game better as well in some way. But I applaud your so far, even though that's not normally the rules that we're playing by now. Although we could do it now. I don't know who joined last. Was it me? I hope it wasn't me. It's always me, and I always have to go first, which works out quite poorly for me because I'm often not as prepared as I want to be.
Okay, I can go first.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Tadas.
Yeah, so this week wasn't very productive for me. There were public holiday in Lithuania in the middle of the week, and then I had some personal issues, and yeah, so didn't get a lot done. So basically, my update from the last Eden Fractal meeting still holds regarding firmament. Yeah, still considering alternatives to current IPFS libraries. Yeah, moving forward with that. So I will be short this time. Who wants to go next? Again, we wait.
You pick.
Okay, you Vlad.
All right. For me, I've been ideating the app, the circle. The app has two. I think you're okay. Maybe you don't all know, but with Dan and Tadas, I explained it already. Anyway, the app enables two things: to distribute funding to members of organization that are some way contributing. So if in eyeke, Planet eyeke on Alien Worlds, there is this eyeke Community Council that Lisa created, and that would be the first application of that app. So it would have a nice way just to, in one click, distribute funding to all the committees that the Planet eyeke has. And if those committees have members, then the funding would flow to members as well, just in one transfer. So makes the compensation distribution very convenient.
You'd have to make the setup though, right?
Yes. So it's, if we go a bit into details, then first setup is that the custodians of Planet eyeke would have to elect the lead link. So the main leader of the main circle, biggest circle, and that lead link will have two options. He can elect already members into the main circle, or he or she can create committees or circles within the main circle. And yes, the lead link is always responsible for setting the amounts. How much goes to each member, how much goes to each committee. And yeah, so when the funds flow into a committee, it has a lead link, and that lead link further is responsible for setting the amounts, and it can go quite infinitely deep, so to say. And that's one feature, fund distribution. Second one is just the visualization. So you would nicely see it's going to be a circle. What's the circle's name? Who is the member of the circle? And then what's inside that circle. If you click on the circle, it will show who are the members, what their responsibilities are. So just a way how to visualize the organization. But now, yesterday, I learned that Michael Yeats also wants to build the payment system for the committees. And through Lisa, we've been having some discussions with him, but today I reached out also to ask whether he wants to collaborate or just let the best solution win. So let's see how that develops. And second thing I'm working on is just still the grant application for the Fractal app. Still we haven't decided on the name. I gotta make a call with Matthias to to just decide on something. How should we call it? But yeah, the Fractal app. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. Rosmari, would you like to go?
Yes, Vlad. Thanks. So, first of all, Community Stories podcast episode 2 with Kudoso is now out. And I'll share the link in the chat here. Also, I can share, I guess, a presentation after everyone finishes. And so this episode is out. I think it's been out for 5 days or so. And I promoted it in the chats, but I'm looking forward to promoting it much more. And I'm thinking about doing the EOSB's swarm. So I'll probably do that like this week and get more traction on that. I'm also looking to promote it probably in the fireside chat just after this call. And yeah, I mean, I really like that episode. I have, if anyone's interested in Aquadeck as well, and what Kudoso is an amazing builder, and he also raps and is a freestyler rap, and he joins these meetings, and he's talking a lot about Aquadeck and his new projects there, and in general what he learned about the Genesis Fractal meetings, and in his eyes, like what didn't work and what he got out of the situation, and it's just like an overview of his experience so far in EOS and where he's going, and just life as a builder, and just tips and tricks. So you can also find all the links with in relation to that in the description box in the YouTube video too, as well as like all links that I could find about Aquadeck and his other projects too. And he also shares a bit more about this project Tetra. And it was actually one of the few projects that got qualified for the GameFi section category on Pomelo, which is interesting. And you can find the link to his Pomelo grant for Tetra app that he's building at the moment in the description box as well. And apart from that, I've been helping with the Eden creators publishing, and in general the marketing, being a marketeer for in creators. I've edited a few videos like 54, 55, 6 and 7th video thing, and also just working on the show notes for 54th meeting, and as well as the weekly report, which is now it's together, the show notes and the weekly report on news and what's been happening, as well as links, which you can find at edencreators.com/54. And also the thumbnails, being creative, getting creative there with the thumbnails for the past few meetings in collaboration with Dan. Like Dan's been helping me along the process, but I'm starting to get the grasp of how things are done. And yeah, just apart from that, attended a few meetings which are using the fractal process, like the Aquadex meeting on Monday and the Alien Worlds fractal meeting as well. Aquadex meeting on Tuesday and the Alien Worlds fractal meeting on Monday. And also the Eden on EOS elections on Saturday. So lots happening, and that's it from me. With that, I'm gonna pass it to Noam.
Okay. I had a pretty busy week on the science committee for Alien Worlds. We talked about all kinds of interesting things like spacecraft and space stations that throw Well, we started out talking about space elevator, and I said that space elevators aren't very practical, but there's something else you can do where space stations throw capsules around like trapeze artists. And that might be something that works and could be a very interesting game as well. And then we moved on to other stuff. I also started working on an idea for the most simple social games I can think of, which are classic examples in game theory. The simplest consensus you can have is when two people have to agree on two things, either A or B. And either both pick A or both pick B, and then they get a reward. Or if they can't agree, then nobody gets the reward. And the question is, how do you decide? And as long as people can talk, it's a trivial game. But then you start asking, what happens if they can't communicate? And I developed about 6 games for now. I have ideas for tens more. But the last one would be you have to pick, either both pick red or both pick green, and they can't communicate. And the question is, what would you pick if you had to pick either red or green and you knew that you had to reach consensus? I'm wondering if any of you could tell me, what would you pick if you knew that the other person had to pick the same color? What would you go for?
Do we know the other person in the game?
No.
Hmm.
Do they have ability on what the other person has chosen?
You have to guess what the other person is chosen, and they have to guess what you choose.
Where's the logic in this game?
If I keep going with this game a little further, it becomes the oracles that you have in crypto that tell us what's going on. We could have games where you have to defend against a 51% attack. I'm already planning ahead, but this is one of the simplest ones where if you can't coordinate, it's basically what we're doing every time we do fractalgram, and we have to vote for someone, and we're guessing what the other people will vote, and we're trying to reach consensus. So it's not so much logic as learning the social interactions when they're at the most limit, at the closest limit. And if you think about red and green, I think you'd be able to figure out a choice.
I would guess green, because green is right, good. Red is wrong.
Exactly. So anybody who thinks about that, or thinks about a traffic light or a red alert, which is bad, even if you don't know anything about the other person, you can guess that they're going to pick green. And then they both pick green, and that way you reach consensus even without talking. And you can do that as I go on. I want to do more complicated games, some with communication, some without communication. My goal is to see how short of a game can we make. Can we make a game that only lasts a few seconds, so we can have people play tens or hundreds of games, or over a few hours, or a few minutes every day, and eventually learn about people's qualities, like how well do they cooperate, how well do they reach consensus, do they fight, can you trust them, are they trusting? There are a lot of things you can find out just by playing those very simple games, and they would be very useful tools for governance. And I'm still working on how to do it without having any random effects. And I'm finding some very interesting results. So that's the main thing. I've obviously been active on the eyeke community council a lot, but I think I've talked enough, so I'll pass it on to Dan.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you very much, Noam. I really appreciate you looking into ways to make the game as short as possible, and sounds fascinating. So thank you, and looking forward to discussing that more. And then also, Vlad, Tadas, and Rosmari, all the progress sounds awesome. Thank you so much. Vlad, if you want to share the link, the Notion link, if people want to check out the Circles app, that might be cool. And I have some questions I can get into after mine about ways that we can collaborate and bring all these together in different ways. I've also been thinking about some new ways we can maybe bring these tools together and make a new kind of game that's along the same lines, maybe a little bit different. But yeah, first I suppose I'll just jump into a little presentation about some stuff I have been up to over the past week or so to go and help Eden Fractal. I shared some of this during the introductory presentation there, but I will share it in more detail here and go into more detail. Some of it Rosmari shared as well too. So I worked with Rosmari. A lot of it was showing Rosmari how to use some of the different tools, like making these, making the thumbnails. We use an app called Affinity Photo to make it look cool. And now they're getting cooler than ever, I think. So huge thanks to Rosmari for that, as well as the video editing that we've been able to catch up. So a lot of the time has just been spent trying to share a lot of the skills I know with Rosmari, and then also helping and providing a lot of constructive feedback here and there, and creating co-creating it together with her. So that was a big thing over the past week with both the video editing and the thumbnail creation and show notes, basically every element of producing the show after we create it. And these are all uploaded on the Eden Creators YouTube channel, of course. Working on growing that a lot and putting a lot of effort into it, and then also worked on with Rosmari on the show notes. A lot of this stuff was written in the Fractalian Worlds article that I previously had there, and it still needs to be updated a bit. A little bit of it is a little bit messy and stuff, but it's mostly pretty good now, I think. So huge thanks to Rosmari, especially for this one. She put that together. And so yeah, I put together this article and then also helped train Rosmari to make show notes in the future, and also helped her with the community stories as well. She has a page. Maybe since she didn't share it, I can just share it briefly, but I was showing her, she got a page at edencreators.com/community stories, where I was showing her how we can build a page and we can like feature episodes, kind of like I did for the town hall and different episodes, where you have different things here. I hope you don't mind me sharing all these things, Rosmari, unprepared here. But yeah, just showing her how to do that and helping her set it up for the Community Stories podcast and trying to support as much as possible with that, and making some small updates to the Alien Worlds Fractal article along the way. We'll make more soon. I also hosted the Alien Worlds Fractal meeting as well for I guess that was the 4th meeting we had, and it's a great meeting. Huge thanks to Vlad for putting that out there and everybody for participating. I hosted the Eden Town Hall 54 a week and a half ago, but I published it this week on, I think I was the 8th, like the day before the election, the Eden on EOS election, and made show notes for it, as well as short timestamps and a recap of some of the different things we talked about, like recapping the story with Pomelo, which we also followed up with Andrew Ware. So there's more coming on there, but Andrew Ware joined the Eden Fractal meeting last week. So I'll add more on that ongoing story about getting more attention and funding and so forth in the EOS network, and spreading the word about how these social games can help create public goods. So yeah, I put together this, and we featured the pitch sessions and Pomelo stuff and Fractalian Worlds and EOS Index with the EOSBs and Eden Fractal updates, all sorts of cool stuff that we featured here, as well as the elections. And I put out a tweet about it and shared it widely. Also, when I put that out, I responded to Kevin Rose, who's the CMO of Dakoko. He's formerly founder of EOS New York. He's like an amazing builder, super smart guy, and he's asked some questions, and I helped spark this discussion with him and Lisa, where he was asking those questions about what has Eden done, and so I just gave a pretty short answer, but I think pretty well timed, and gave him little details about how Eden has done great things. A lot of people don't understand all the great things that Eden has done, but I'm working on kind of showing and demonstrating and illustrating, like maybe with a node kind of mind map or something like that, all the things that have developed out of it, like Eden Fractal and Eden Creators and Fractal and EOSBs and Alien Worlds Fractal and EOS Support and Aqueduct and all these different things, and then all the shows we've made and stuff like that. So that happened, and then it also inspired Kevin Rose to promote some of the work we've been doing with our collaborations with Eden Fractal Recommendations. So that's one thing, getting some great attention from a great builder who's the CMO at Dakoko. And I also reached out to Kevin Iwaki of Gitcoin, who I've spoken about many times here previously. Thanks for the heart. And Kevin Owonki said, hey, thanks for saying hi, and invite people to join. But basically, I told him that I'm a huge fan of Will's work, as well as sharing the Funding Public Goods episode of Town Hall here. I'm thinking maybe we should start just inviting people from these groups because they're highly aligned. And I've been doing a lot of research, and there's a bunch of people who can do great work and would really appreciate joining. But this is the first step, or one of the first steps, in actually reaching out for the first time. And hopefully I'll do a podcast with them soon and stuff like that. I participated in the Eden on EOS election. This is a screenshot from the video that Patrick published. I also got the full video from Lovejoy, so I'm going to publish the full video on Eden Creator's YouTube channel because Patrick cut it quite a bit. And then we had a very interesting discussion. I was speaking for a large amount of time during this. As you can see, I was speaking with the chief delegates for probably like an hour or maybe an hour and a half. I was elected as a delegate to help grow Eden Fractal and to help grow Eden with the Fractal business games that we're playing here. And I advocate very much for what we're doing here. I also pointed out some issues I had with the bylaws proposal that they made too, and trying to help the Eden on EOS community as much as possible to succeed with Eden Fractal social games. And then also there was like probably, I guess, 40 people or so on for most of the time. So it was a pretty wide audience that I was sharing it with, and it was quite engaging, got some nice compliments. I also reached out to Martin, or Martin reached out to me, but I followed up with him. Noam had inspired me to do that, so thanks for Noam for the nudge. But working with Martin, or planning to work with Martin and Andrew Ware and the Pomelo team on integrating Pinex into the Signals app that we've been building, and I was thinking of proposing that today. I've also been looking into the new Gitcoin EVM protocol for Allo. I think I mentioned that last week, but I've just been continuing to mention that it's an EVM open source stack for building like quadratic funding rounds. I think we could do with Cignals mini games basically. And then I've also been looking a lot into Mighty Networks, which is where Joshua has the NDAO.network that we have. Joshua stopped paying for it, and he reached out to me recently. And I'm planning to get back to him, but I've been just learning all the great ways that we can use these Mighty Networks. I'm thinking of doing like a Fractal Joy Mighty Network, where we can bring together all the, we can feature all the different fractals and all the different communities cooperating with these, and make apps that are like custom made in iOS app stores and stuff like that, as well as sell courses and monetize and all sorts of different stuff like that. So we're doing a lot of research into there, figure out the best way to make it work. And I've also been continuing to get more organized, building the infrastructure to scale up a team, working a lot with Rosmari on building Notion projects. One last thing I can mention, I had a great conversation with Tadas and Vlad, and one of the things I would mean to reread is Tadas's great idea about fungibility of non-fungible tokens. I read some of this last night, and I'm still getting it more through my head, but there's some very interesting ideas. I'm thinking, I worked with Vlad over the past few weeks, and Vlad's going to help me set up respect distribution for Eden creators, where I can just give out just like a respect from Eden creators for people who play in different games that I'm hosting. And then I'm thinking of doing this NFTs too. So I'm thinking how maybe with Eden creators NFTs we could do something like that. I don't really know. I'm just starting to form ideas, but it's really interesting. So thanks to us for sharing that. And I don't know if I went over 5 minutes. My apologies if I did. I will remember to set a timer in the future, but that's that for me. Happy to answer any questions if you like. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions for anyone here?
I wanted to ask Vlad if you needed a beta tester.
For the circle.
Yeah.
No, if we get to building it, then yes. Right now it's still ideation.
Okay. When you need, well, if it's still ideation, when you're programming, if you need a second pair of eyes, I'd love.
Cool.
I still need to learn the language, but I can learn the language by being the second pair of eyes, so we're both benefit.
Cool. I'm looking forward to circles. Sounds really interesting. Noam, do you want to ask any or share anything else there?
That was, the rest was pretty clear.
Cool. I can ask some questions or comments. I can go ahead now, or if anybody else wants to go first, then feel free.
Go ahead.
I guess I wanted to ask a couple of things. No, I wanted to ask, I think you said that you're working on a Google spreadsheet for quadratic distribution voting and stuff like that. I'm wondering if you ever finished that, or if you have any updates on that project, or if I misunderstood it.
As long as it's as you don't have to to do anonymous voting, I can build one in 2 seconds. It's not a problem.
Okay. Okay, cool. Well, thank you. And I know Vlad also has experience with quadratic voting on consortium too. I've just been wondering, I've been thinking about maybe trying a signals game where we try quadratic voting where people have, like 100 points total, and that is amplified by how much respect they have and stuff like that, but they can allocate it. And I'm wondering if the Google spreadsheet would be best for that or consortium. It's not a huge priority, because I guess, I mean, it'd be cool. One of the things that I mentioned yesterday at the Alien Worlds Fractal meeting that I forgot to mention, but one of the things that I really appreciate, Noam, is that the conversation we had last week when we were talking about the signals, and you mentioned how helpful quadratic voting could be for that. I think it's a really interesting idea to have some of the games, like Eric is talking about the open mic nights and stuff like that. Sometimes it's best to just rank it 1 through 3 or whatever, but sometimes having it where people can like allocate votes and stuff with quadratic is really interesting. So I'm interested to hear about how that could help at some point, or the best way to do that.
The games I was telling you about today are the first stage or the first chapter. I think that somewhere around the third or fourth chapter, I'll start doing quadratic voting as well. But I'm starting with the simplest thing you can do because I want to build up. And eventually, if we get quadratic voting, it could work very well with the education on the governance committee, where you'd be able to play this game that's very simple. You take a few seconds, and you get a feel for what those games work like on something very small. You're playing with chips. It's not. We'll start out with something that isn't real money, but you get a feel for it, and maybe you'll get some NFTs that show what skills you have, what properties you have, whether you're a collaborative person, a competitive person. Those are important things, especially when you need to build a team that has one of each. So I think it's going to be a very good diagnostic tool for diagnostic measurement data collection tool for the governance committees and for other governance activities. And obviously, I want to put quadratic voting in. I want to start with the simplest stuff and then add quadratic voting.
All right, excellent. Yeah, I was just muted for a second. But yeah, thanks for sharing. Sounds great and makes sense, that approach, starting simple. And yeah, let's talk about this more in the coming days and weeks and stuff. I'm happy to help wherever I can. That sounds like a great initiative, and looking forward to collaborating. One other thing I wanted to put out there too, just kind of related to this, and just go with the comments, maybe directed towards Vlad, or maybe I don't know who's directed towards, maybe just in general. One thing I was thinking, circles and fractals is kind of a cool name. So if you want to keep it there, well, that might be difficult to find. So maybe if there's like some Vlad circles, Vlad fractals, I'm just joking. Maybe if there's something like circles and fractals with a simple name change, that could work. It sounds kind of cool. And then also just one idea I want to put out there, that a family member had mentioned to me, is like if we could have these social games where people could easily, and maybe it's related to circles or something, I don't know, we could have it where, like when people play poker together, like, okay, we'll each put $5 in the pot or $10 in the pot or whatever their currency is, and then they play for it. And it's like each person has skin in the game, a bit of skin in the game, and they can just play the game. Like that would be cool if we could build along with the app, maybe the WebRTC app or something that we have, or you're building.
This is one thing that I already built into my first games. All the games I'm building them to be sustainable, so you won't have to get funding from somebody. To play the game, you have to give a token, and then the tokens get distributed based on how well you played. And if it's break even, why would people want to play? So I figured out one way to actually give people an incentive, and that is you check if people show up. If you don't show up, you forfeit the money or the token that you had, and the people who did show up get a portion of it, and another portion goes to a fund that eventually allows you to distribute more than the people are contributing. But the idea is, for starters, if you don't show up at the time when you need when the game happens, then you forfeit your token. Later, when I start looking at collaboration and cooperation and things like that, people who do antisocial things will get slashed. And we'd be able to use that to give others more funds. But I think that for the first 10 or 20 games, I want them to be almost break even because I want people to feel that it's fair. It's only at a later time that we're going to start looking at how to check that you're honest, that you are that when there is a consensus, you don't insist on your own thing. Things like that are going to end up giving your token, the token that you put in, to somebody else. But the first 10 or 20 games, I want them to be pretty much break even. So if you play right, and right should be pretty obvious, you'll get your token back and some NFT on addition to it. So the NFT would be the incentive to begin with. And as we go on, we can start rewarding good social behavior and punishing bad social behavior. And the thing I'm struggling with right now that I could use help with is when you get to the point where you've got a 51% attack. And I want to make it possible for people playing the game to do a 51% attack on a consensus. And the question then becomes, do you reward it because they succeeded? Or do you punish it, like slashing happens on crypto, because it's antisocial? And I think that what I've seen is that as long as it's done openly, like what happened with Stefan on Eden, or a lot of times you hear where a hacker does something and then he gets a reward for finding the problem. So you reward the person who does it for the first time, but after that, you build the mechanism so whoever tries to do that again gets slashed, so they lose their tokens. The person who's trying to do the attack ends up losing. And that way we assure consensus.
Very interesting. Thanks for sharing all those ideas, Noam. I have a lot of comments I could share, but I see Tadas has the hands up, and yes, I'll pass it to Tadas.
Do you want me to create a fractal gram group, or?
If you'd like to, if you don't mind, I haven't done it yet. I can do it now if you want, but if you don't mind doing it, then I'd appreciate it. I'm also in the background getting a little bit ready for the presentation that I think Duane will start as well, and perhaps the breakout rooms.
Okay, so I also have a question to Noam. Yeah, so if you want to create a fund from which to distribute rewards later, these meetings still have to cost something, even if participants do show up, right?
Well, the idea is every participant puts in a token, and if they play right, they get their token back.
So fund is created.
They get the token back and an NFT.
Yeah, so that means that fund is created purely from participants who don't show up?
For the first 10 or 20 games, yes. Later, it's going to be for participants who don't reach consensus, or for participants who play in a way that isn't constructive, that isn't helping. And the whole idea of the first games is to define what consensus is. Let's have two people reach consensus. It's very easy, but it gives you a feel for how it works. So later, when you do the more complicated stuff, it seems familiar.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It's like a betting game, except the fund is created from people who are not able to play simple games. So yeah, cool. I would
It's
want to
also
think about
eventually it's going to be a very, if we take it several levels up, it's going to be a very good model for how blockchains work, because blockchain communities, they can be attacked with a 51% attack. You can build mechanism to make sure it doesn't happen. All of those things. And when somebody that's new to crypto comes for the first time and doesn't know, they could be completely surprised when the token they've invested in got 51% attacked. But if they play this game, then that educates them and they're ready, they understand what they're doing, they understand how the vote works. And we can educate people how, with it, by playing the game, where they can actually profit for playing in a good social way. We can educate people about the really large tokens and how they work. But okay, I see we got
yeah, we should join the Fractalgram group and start reaching consensus. But just wanted to say that I would like to discuss with you how you define the 51% attack. That's an interesting.
Okay, I'm looking for ideas for how to build it, how to design the mechanism so that we can reward good behavior. We can reward people who can find problems, but that in general, it encourages cooperation and consensus and things like that.
Yeah, let's talk later.
Okay. Here we go. It's EF58, right? But it doesn't say which room it is, right?
Yeah, it just says EF58. I guess I could rename it to room 1 or
okay. You need to send the message, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if is everybody here right now? I guess everybody's here, yeah. So I'll send the message.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the message is not working. It might be because, like, I just opened up the window and it didn't open up a fresh new Fractalgram. I just had it from yesterday or something.
It's not sending?
Yeah,
I can see you saying, hey.
I hit, oh, now it's working.
Here we go.
Okay.
And this is the EOS one, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
And it's insisting on giving me, why is it insisting on capital letter? Okay, got it.
Okay, we're just missing Rosmari's account name and then we can get going. Did you hear us, Rosmari? We're just waiting for you to enter your account name in the Fractalgram. Thank you. Okay, and level 6. Who should we rank as level 6? Who did the most for Eden Fractal? It might be good, by the way, to adjust those questions, like make it more specific. I think for one thing, saying first place is better than level 6. That's something we should start doing in the future. First place and second place and so forth. And then we can make the question more specific about like who did the most for Eden Fractal or something like that. Okay, everybody's very quiet. I'm trying to open it up, the thing on my phone. Sometimes it doesn't update. I guess we have 2 for Noam and 1 for Vlad, 1 for myself, 1 for Rosmari, right? Okay. Does anyone want to share why they voted for who they voted for, or try to convince and persuade anybody in the group?
I voted for Noam because, yeah, I think that idea for how to create a fund from which to reward contributors, I think that has potential. Yeah, I did not think about it previously. So.
Okay, cool. Anybody else want to share? I can go and show why I voted for Rosmari. Vlad looks like he's a happy man for some reason. Something on Vlad's mind.
No, I didn't like completely understand Noam's games, but since Tadas got excited, I saw that there is something. That's why I voted.
Okay. Vlad proxying his vote to Tadas. Tadas excited, Master Good. Yeah, I didn't totally understand it either, but I see the potential, some potential at least for sure, and I think it's very interesting. I'm really interested to learn more about what Noam has in his mind between those great big planets. I voted for Rosmari because I think that beyond like an idea, Rosemary's done a lot of like super helpful work with Eden Fractal and Eden Creators, being able to help me work a lot more efficiently and like be able to focus on other things and be able to catch up on, like, she's made awesome thumbnails like that have been better than we've ever done before, and the show notes and everything like that. And then in addition to promoting it, there's a lot more I can say too. Also the release of the community stories too. I think that promoting other fractals like the Alien Worlds Fractal and Aquadac and Art Fractal, like this is something that's really helpful for the fractals and overall social games in general. And her going up there and sharing it around, making this thumbnail, it reflects very well on what we're doing here, and I think it'll help it grow a lot. I'm also really excited about what Noam is doing too, but I think I'll keep my vote with Rosmari for now because I think that what she's done, like she's done a huge amount of work, and I've been seeing it very closely, and she's been very dedicated and committed to that. So I really appreciate that, Rosmari.
Well, if I thought it would help, I would switch to Rosemary. I really liked your presentation, but then I heard Dan's and I liked it even more.
Yeah, I think I would advocate for Dan because he's been teaching me a lot and just spending time to train me, on how to help him the best I can. So that takes time, and efforts, and also a huge educational piece of the puzzle, really. And it helps me, be on track with as well different events happening and just pushing me, to do a bit more. So I advocate for Dan because he's put like a lot of effort this week to as well host different meetings and teaching me on how to navigate better and work together. So I advocate for Dan. And he's the one that pushed me to do the episode too. So he's got yeah, he's got like this I don't know. Yeah, he's someone that I look up to. So
Yeah, motivating other members is a valuable contribution. So I would be willing. If others switch to Dan, I would be willing to.
The same with me.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Well, thank you very much, Rosemary, for all the kind words. Appreciate it a lot, and appreciate everybody's support. Yeah, I'm very happy to be working with you and all that stuff. Likewise, Rosemary, I'm very happy that you appreciate it so much.
I'm trying to switch and I can't. I don't know why it's not letting me.
Are you on a computer or a phone?
On a tablet. Here we go.
Normal Telegram.
I got it.
Okay.
I don't know why the fifth click worked. Okay.
Okay. Well.
So I got consensus.
Thanks all. Appreciate it. And you can now go rank level 5. And one person has not voted yet. We don't have a vote from Rosmari yet.
Rosmari still.
Looks like Rosmari's deep in thought here, trying to decide the best way to play.
I just voted.
Okay. So no one voted for Vlad. Vlad has one vote. Rosmari.
I'll
Vlad,
switch
Tadas
just to
Noam.
get consensus. Oh, I don't have to. It's already.
It's 3 out of 5 right now. So
Are you switching to you?
Oh, so we still need.
If you switch to yourself, then there would be consensus for yourself.
But who's missing?
Everybody voted. Right now, Vlad has 1 vote from you. You have 3 votes from Rosmari, Vlad, and Tadas, and I voted for Rosmari. So you have 3 out of 5 right now.
Oh, okay. So I guess I'll switch to myself just for the consensus.
Okay.
Even if I switch to Rosmari, that wouldn't. I just have to. There we go. No, that gets me to the.
Sounds like you're having some issues over here, no, with the half.
I think I need to figure out where it is that I need to click.
Tadas is getting a live feedback demo right now about a confused user.
I should hold the tablet like this while I'm trying to.
We can't see it really because Zoom.
The background doesn't recognize it, so it just filters it out.
Yeah.
But I did manage to get it in, so we should have consensus.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, but you're using normal Telegram client, not a Fractalgram web phone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so not my problem.
I need to figure out where I need to click. Okay.
It seemed like Tadas was quite happy.
I need to click at the same level as the question. If I click close to the question marks, it lets me retract the vote.
Okay. By the way, we have about 7 minutes left, and so far we have 3 people have voted for level 4.
Yeah, I see everyone has voted.
You got 100% consensus now.
There's unanimous consensus for Rosmari level 4. And we go to level 3.
And now unanimous consensus for Vlad.
And not very often that we have Vlad and Tadas at the bottom 2 spots. I got unanimous consensus for Vlad. You said?
Free riders.
Free riders. You guys this whole time, whole Eden Fractal thing, what have you guys been doing? Just hanging out? just coming for the laughs. Saying not my problem. That's all you get with these guys.
Oh, it's great to be in such good company.
Yeah. Okay, and who should be the delegate? I can pull up the delegate spreadsheet, see who is a delegate. Is anybody interested in?
I don't know. I might be expiring soon.
And for Council 39, apparently only Tadas was a delegate. I don't know if Tadas is trying to game the system here, but so Council 39 was last week. That wasn't updated.
Yeah, I didn't update. The last group was waiting for consensus and then forgot.
Oh, okay. I remember back in the day, Vlad recommended King Tadas or something like that. So I thought maybe Tadas was going for that with the Google spreadsheets. Just kidding. So yeah, on the spreadsheet, Council 36, which is now expired. So that's expired. Noam had a spot there, but not anymore. Patrick and Lisa, myself and Jorge, and Tadas and somebody else from last week. Tadas and Rosmari were elected last week. So Noam is not a delegate. Rosmari was elected delegate last week. I was elected delegate 2 weeks ago.
If I'm expiring, I would like to run.
You are now expired as a delegate.
I am.
Yes.
So I'm running. Yeah.
Okay. Is anybody else interested in throwing their hat into the ring, so to speak? You don't actually have to throw your hat.
Yeah, Vlad is also not a delegate.
Oh,
Oh,
haven't been for a long time.
do you want to be? Because if you are, I will vote for you, even though.
Not now.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
And
I'm willing
Tadas, are you?
to. Oh,
I'm already a delegate, so I would vote
Oh,
for you.
okay. Okay.
I will also vote for Noam as well. And it looks like we have all of our results with a few minutes left. This is group number 2.
I forgot to trigger the elections. Let's do it.
Thank you, Vlad.
Oh,
Would be good.
Should be good.
Yep.
Nice.
what's my password again?
Well, yeah, thanks all for the great meeting. I think I might have just said that, but everything's firing. And looking forward to continuing the discussions we had here and helping however I can. Of course, as always, feel free to let me know if there's anything I can do to help you all. I'm also done with the voting as well. And we can go back into breakout rooms in the next minute or two. Maybe I'll hit the button now and I'll close that in 6 seconds.
Hope it didn't time out. Okay. So we have just in time. It's always a race to see if I manage to get the anchor logged in time.
I don't know why you always have so many issues with Gnome. For me, it's been like pretty reliable. I was just thinking about it ever since I got it on my phone.
Every
Pretty
time my
smooth and
computer
seamless.
reboots, Anchor asks for a password, and sometimes after a few days, it asks for it anyway.
I've been using it on my phone. I was just saying there, Gnome, that I've been using Anchor on my phone, and then you can do a scan your QR code, and then you keep the key on your phone, but you can scan it on the computer. It's been working quite well for me as a way to be able to sign transactions and stuff like that. Hope everybody had an awesome time, and Lisa seems like she enjoyed the tip. Very emphatic about it. Yeah, hope everybody had a great time at the breakout rooms. Welcome back to the community rooms. We have 3 topics on the agenda, and we'll jump into that momentarily. I'll share a little presentation to kick us off, and then I think I'll pass it over to Duane, who has a topic with the most votes right now. Anybody can vote on consortium once again to vote. We'll get that started in a couple minutes. So I see Marchenberg Sparrow. Marco has his hands up, so we can pass it to Marco. If anyone wants to share any quick comments after that before we go to the agenda, then feel free to raise your hand, and I'll pass it over to Marco now.
Yeah, no, just real quick, continuing the breakout. There is a talk of decentralization, centralization with hypha DAO and how it's linking. IBC probably rolls into that, but there's something brought up in the node operators meeting about different development via mobile application and how Anchor, this wasn't there, but Anchor operates differently on mobile as well. And it was a key factor that was brought up in the node meeting of adding features for users. So the idea, the question begs then, if hypha is looking to, it wants an answer for the centralized question, how does it function on mobile? To that end, if the power behind what we're doing here are users, then again, we got to look at mobile. Developers like to work on large computers that users don't use. So at some point, we need whatever we're doing to be friendly on mobile first to realize the speed of the vehicle we got.
All right, cool. Thanks for the comment, Marco. See a thumbs up from Lisa. And yeah, focusing on mobile development, it's also really important. Large percentage of people in the world use mobile phones first and foremost. And also, yeah, collaboration with hypha too. So if you could,
Main thing for users.
What's that?
We can't expect you. The thing of convenience. We can't expect users, all users, to be so committed or ready to go. If you coordinate between a lot of people, convenience first. Anyway.
Yep. Great point. Thank you, Marco. If you'd like to get more in detail of that, I encourage you to make a topic proposal on consortium for future weeks, and we can steer a whole discussion around it for longer. But thank you for planting that seed and getting us to think about it. It's a great point. Also, the WebRTC tool that Vlad's planning to build, I think, would work on mobile as well, if I'm correct. So that would be something that I see Vlad shaking his head. Yeah, he's planning on doing a grant for that. Perhaps Vlad, at some point, you can make a topic proposal and share that with the community. That would be super cool. To hear more in-depth part about that. Maybe that could respond. Maybe that could help provide mobile solutions like Marco was mentioning. I see Jorge also said if anyone have feedback regarding the water QR code to verify origin with me on Telegram. I'm not totally sure what that is, but I guess maybe that's from the other room. If you want to share a bit about that, then feel free to jump in, Jorge. If not, then I suppose I'll jump into the topics on the agenda for today. I see Duane giving a thumbs up, so I'll just give a little overview of the topics on the agenda, and also maybe just lead in Duane's presentation with a couple sites that show an overview of the recent Eden on EOS election and the interactions and collaborations between Eden and EOS. Actually, Marco had proposed something about Eden and EOS a couple months ago, or maybe a few months ago, if I remember correctly, about interactions between Eden and EOS. So this is a good discussion. I think that's been a long time coming, and we also have some other topics on the agenda too, if we have a chance to get into it. So I'll share the screen without further ado now. Welcome back to the community room for Eden Fractal. Hope everybody had an amazing time, and hope you will continue to have an amazing time. Right now, we're going to do cagendas. I find this by edenfractal.com/welcome, and then I just scroll down to where it says cagendas. What is cagendas? And this needs some work in progress, but as I said many times before, social coordination game where we can create agendas and make discussion topics, make decisions together. So encourage everybody to make topics. And this week's meeting, we didn't have any topics proposed until when we all came together, and I suggested to Eric and Duane, we were having discussions, and we figured that we might make it. And so Duane made a topic right at the beginning of the meeting about Eden on EOS fractal meetings, and he wrote that Eden on EOS has suggested that its delegates attend weekly fractal governance meetups, and he asked should they participate on the weekly Eden fractal meeting on Wednesdays at 15:30 UTC, where we are right now, or should we help them start their own fractal? And there was two answers here. Eden on EOS should attend Eden fractal meeting every Wednesday at 15:30 UTC, of which there are two people who voted yes with 2K Eden respect points. And the other one was we should help Eden on EOS start their own fractal. I also might add too, I don't know if they're necessarily exclusive because they could potentially do both. And then I also put up a couple topics that didn't have any votes. By the way, consortium, normally when we first started doing agendas, we decided that we would delete the topics, and we haven't been doing that lately. So again, it's kind of nice having all the topics there. Eventually it'd be nice to have it more sorted so we can like sort it. But if you ever want to find new topics that are proposed, ones with 0 votes show up at the bottom, so that's where you can vote. And you can also just hit Command F and go search for 58, because generally when we have a topic, then we prefix it with T58 or TP58 for the 58th meeting and so forth. It's not totally necessary like Duane didn't do here, and that's good enough, but that's a way that we can find it in the future. Will make it easier to find all the proposals. Certainly something we can improve. But yeah, Duane made this topic, and then I put together 2 topics because Eric was talking about open mic nights at Leaf's Coffee Shop, playing games like Fractal DJ and Cignals and stuff to help people learn in the Center for Governance. So that's another topic we can discuss if we have more time after the Eden on EOS fractal meetings discussion topic. And then I also made a quick topic about certifications in social games because we were talking about that. before the breakout rooms as well. So that's another topic we can get into if we have time. It can be some really interesting discussions. First, I'll just lead in a bit with Duane's topic about here, and then pass it over to Duane. If anyone's not familiar, Eden on EOS, it's part of the Eden community, very closely associated with Eden Fractal. Eden Fractal kind of came out of Eden on EOS in some way. They do the Eden on EOS community, of which many members here are in both groups. Eden on EOS has elections once every 3 months, and the 7th official Eden on EOS election was just on this Saturday, a few days ago. You can see Patrick, who was elected as a chief delegate. Shout out to Patrick, who's also a major sponsor of Eden Fractal and big contributor, very respected member of Eden Fractal. He put up a tweet along with producing a video. He didn't produce the entire video, he produced about an hour and 45 minutes. I'm also going to put up a shorter video or longer video because the whole event was like 4 hours on the Eden Creators YouTube channel, but you can watch most of or a good portion of the meeting here now. There's about 50 people who participated, maybe 60, I'm not sure. And you can see the proposal. Mo, who was previously chief delegate, he shared the ideas that him and Lenny had come up with, as well as the working groups that they came together with. So he shared a presentation about how it can work, and that was a major discussion point during this election. And then you can see lots of discussions here. I also spoke quite a bit here as well, and also Gabriel and Mo, who both participate in Eden Fractal meetings and contribute a lot to the Eden community as a whole. They're also elected, so congratulations to everybody who's elected. If anybody's not familiar, you can learn more at genesis.eden.eoscommunity.org, where you can see the interface where people can sign up for the election and see the election results and see who won and watch the videos and stuff like that. Lots of really cool stuff going on here. And then also EdenElections.com was created by some Eden chief delegates in a prior term, Chris Barnes and Chris Waxer, where you can learn more about Eden on EOS as well. We can get into more. There's also like Eden on EOS has been operating for like 2.5 years now. You can see the first video that we had that there was like 200 people at the selection back in the day. Shout out to Dan Larimer and the Fractally team, formerly Clarion team, for putting it together. So just to provide a bit of history, I was also going to bring up topic of Eden on EOS, but thankful for Duane for doing so. But I figured I would just give a little introduction for anybody who's not very familiar. I think everybody here is, but for the video, just to kind of warm it up for Duane. So Duane, if you'd like to share your presentation now, you have 5 minutes, or if you want to take longer to go more into detail, if you want to share your screen, or you want me to share the screen at any point or anything like that, or if you want to just keep it short and simple, however you think is best. But with that, I'll pass it over to Duane, and you can lead your discussion and ask everybody the questions on your mind.
Perfect. I'll get you maybe to share your screen. One of the benefits of this Eden was having Mo that did a lot of changes, being one of the chief delegates. But also Gabrielle was part of the incubator with Brock Pierce's, what was the incubator there? But he comes with business development and really focused on a pitch deck and just like really has all the skills to kind of get Eden into this next election, into this next cycle, this new change. And yeah, thanks for Jorge for pushing forward, funds to go towards fractal meetings. And there's a couple places that it would be relevant. One, chief delegates, just, there was a consensus almost in some of the rooms that there's too many meetings. This would be a nice, concise way to reward people with the little bit of pool of funds that we do have for delegates, because this next round, we're giving a lot of the funds back to these circles, and only 25% is kept for yourself. And what a lot of us have noticed in the past is that a lot of the funds went to the level 1 delegates and just disappeared. Their promises maybe didn't go towards any projects. They just kept it. So this would hold people responsible. I would almost say that send back 100% of your funds. And if 25% is supposed to go towards the pool of delegates, let that be decided based on your participation in a weekly fractal meeting. Secondary to that, we're supposed to bring groups to EOS as this new incubator that goes to an incubator, like a pre-incubator, almost like a pre-ENF. I would say that we should, see Fractally as a part of that process, or the fractal process, to have those people part of the incubator give us an update on where they're at. So there's kind of two levels that we can do there. This also spills into other groups that we're all part of, Alien Worlds and other stuff. But just, for this exercise, I could be the lead. I was active in the delegate meetings last round, so I could spearhead and say, look, we have a consensus of so many people from the fractal meetings, and either way that anybody decides their vote here is that should they join our meeting, I think it would strengthen us to make it look more relevant to other people like ENF. And I think there's enough room that we're just not so centered on just what we've done. Like, this is a pretty centralized group. It does have, I think it would be beneficial to have them part of this group, and then maybe have some metrics that when are we big enough, or maybe too diversified, then to split off. And it also concentrates our time. Like, I think they would need our expertise, and maybe that's not really going to be paid for in the beginning. So if we split off, I would almost say that they would have to pay for our time to lead their meetings and learn the tools. So this would be the most efficient way for them to come to this meeting. And that's just my 2 cents. Guess we'll see in the poll. But yeah, that's all I've got. And Marco's got his hand up here.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Duane. Great speech. And yeah, see, Marco, I would like to share your thoughts first.
I really like hearing that. My proposal was somewhat similar. The way you took control and then redistributed based on meeting participation rather than just asking for part of the funds. The community involvement is key, is the thing. The one thing I'll add that may help if we're trying to look out of market or keep empower or direct, maintain the process here, is I started defining what's going on here as an upload process on chain. So if there's an upload process between several EOS account holders, that's really the basic of what we're doing. That's it. I mean, it's one line. So if we took management over that, or we nurtured the idea of that, if you get together in a group and everybody has an EOS account, you use the upload process, come join. It's very simple. It is widespread to other fractals. And if other groups, like say the working group, wish to add that, or if hypha wishes to add that, because I didn't limit it to chain, I think we could do it with a handful of chains as well. We've been doing it longer. We understand issues that come up, and we can streamline it. So if we invite that to take part in whatever funds and decision making, and however way we do it, it's as simple as it can get, getting people together and getting more people involved. And that's a common idea. With IBC, I see it really, you don't have to coordinate between things. That's it. Come together, decide, put it on chain, let us see, and we give you essentially that membership level because we can see it on chain. We don't need to discuss things. Your opinion doesn't matter as long as that's what you got, is that blockchain transaction.
Great points. Thank you, Marco. Yeah, really interesting to hear about all these potential collaborations and ways to collaborate with the Eden community. I suppose I can go. If anyone else wants to raise their hand, then feel free to jump in. But a couple of things I wanted to add here. One, I wanted to thank and congratulate Duane on being a delegate this term. I forgot to mention that. And also Marco, I think, was a delegate last term, and there were many people who have been delegates here before. So congratulations and thanks everybody for all the great work so far, and really looking forward to continued discussion and seeing how we can best collaborate with Eden on EOS. A couple points I wanted to make with my opinions here, and then also just more details. So one, Duane, you mentioned that you can be the lead, kind of, and be like how you've been active in the delegate meetings. The delegate meetings are, by the way, every Thursday at 18 EDC. The Eden on EOS chief delegates host them. I believe it's the same time. Now they're in the Eden on EOS community Telegram chat, and they're welcome. It's not just for delegates, it's for everybody. So I encourage everybody to join. I think you have to be a member of Eden on EOS to join, but I encourage everybody to join those and learn more and also share opinions. And I agree with what Duane was saying about how we can come to consensus about the best ways to reach out and the best ways to collaborate so we can have a more unified message and then work together more. I spoke a lot on the election. I was probably speaking for like an hour out of that total like hour and a half, 2 hour video, or maybe not that much, but I was speaking a lot. I was up there with the chief delegates, sharing my thoughts about the bylaw proposal and best way forward. And I encourage everybody to check that out if you haven't already. Like the bylaws are quite long; they're like 32 pages long. So I understand I haven't had time to read them all thoroughly. But I encourage you to check them out. They're in the Eden on EOS Telegram group. I think they're on the Eden on EOS public group too. If you're not an Eden on EOS member, by the way, welcome Perry. Thanks for joining. And yeah, so I encourage you to do that, and then also watch the videos. Patrick, for example, had an interview with Mo and Lenny, who were the chief delegates from last term, where they went over a lot of what their vision is and what they're aiming to do. And then there's also the working group circles every day. Duane mentioned that there was a lot of different calls that people were saying sometimes there might be too much meetings. There's a lot to keep up with. I've joined a bunch of those, but they have Lenny and Mo established working groups for tech working group, strategy working group, media and communications working group. There's also kind of like a reputation working group, and there might be one or two other ones as well. There probably are them that are missing my mind right now, but people can join those. Usually Lenny or Mo would post a schedule, so there's meetings pretty much every day where you can go and speak with the Eden on EOS chief delegates and members and get involved depending on what your interest is. And then there's meetings on Thursday at 18 UTC, or a place where you can just have general discussions about Eden on EOS. And then you can watch some of the videos on the Nova Crypto YouTube channel, such as the recent election video they posted, to see much more details. I'll also say that, well, some of the stuff I talked about, because things that the Eden on EOS chief delegates are proposing, and it seems like all the chief delegates are now in favor of. Gabriel and Patrick and Mo were all taking a big part in the working group strategy session where they made the proposal. They made a lot of changes. So the bylaws went from about 4 pages long to about 32 pages long, and there is a difference in like a goal and objective, like a different mission statement that's quite a bit longer and more detailed, and kind of more orienting around like Duane mentioned incubator, where delegates are not receiving funding directly, but the funds are going towards fractal circles of some sort with some perhaps modifications, and then like the working groups basically, and then delegates are inspired or incentivized to like reach out to projects, and there's like some element of like fund allocation, almost like a venture capital firm. Not quite, but I don't know. The whole thing is still rather confusing to me, and I spoke about it quite a bit on the election, where I said that I said I wasn't sure if I can keep participating in EOS because it's like so, like it's so much more detailed, and it's a big change from what it previously is. Like I think it's too complex, the bylaws that they made, and there's some aspects of it that I like and I really appreciate. I very much like a lot of it, but some of it I'm not sure about, and also just changing it from like the elegant election structure to adding a lot more about the to like there's potentially liability issues as well, because it sounds more like a venture capital financial kind of thing as well. And so it's something I'm very interested to talk with them about. We had a detailed discussion that everybody can watch on the Nova Crypto YouTube channel. And I see Duane raise his hand, so I can share more about some of my plans and think what might be the next step going forward. Thanks for the claps, Lisa. But yeah, I'll pass it back to Duane right now, and then I can share more of my thoughts afterwards.
Yeah, I sense I sense there's going to be two different entities to belong to the new direction. It's up to the delegates and chief delegates of this round to actually adopt those bylaw changes. And the bylaws, there's a lot of terms and like descriptions. The bylaws itself is not as it's larger for sure. But what I'm sensing is that the focus before didn't have measurable metrics as far as distributed amount of people to put money into the project you thought was best, just had an outflow of funds, and there was no resolve or anything. There's no teeth for us to measure or even hold anybody responsible, right? So if you looked at the funds, we failed, right? It's like trusting an individual to say, hey, fund this and give us measurable results. A lot of the people just put the money in their pocket and left. So we needed a direction of like, hey, how do we bring projects to EOS where everybody's on the same page? So this was consolidating an outflow of a scatter, like just scattering funds out there and hoping for the best, to have a centralized mission of going, it's now your responsibility to bring a group in here, and we're going to have some sort of focus on how we measure how they've actually gone through something, and how do we get some small group some funds, how do we have the best measurable results to take them down a path that they actually have some benefit to EOS? And an incubator model was the best. So to say we're a VC, I think it's a bit of an exaggeration. To say there's risk, I'm sure there will be. But there's still two different things here. There's still a membership group that you've gone through a decentralized KYC process that could be still utilized, and there's a distribution of funds. So it's just more clarity. So I think we just kind of like, participate in those. Like there's a way for us to participate and have our voice and see what's going to happen with that group. But for the sake of us, I see that there's other tools that are being used that should be more of a focus than a small group of people trying to, revitalize a group. Because I know Perry's going to come up and say, hey, this wasn't the direction I want. No problem. We're in a blockchain. Go fork. We have a group of 500 people where there's 66 people that are active. Is that a failure or success? Great. Have someone else have decentralized meetings like we are, and see if you can get enough of a consensus in EOS and in governments to make something work. That's what these people are trying to do from the bottom of their heart, is make something work, right? So if there's better suggestions or other groups that don't like the direction, hey, we can fork. We can use that code. We can use the NFTs. We can use a reputation system. We can use all the good things if we don't like the direction, and take what we want and leave what we don't want. So I'm more interested in, hey, using hypha, using Fractally, using the tools that Vlad's made, using the upcoming tools that Tadas is going to make, that we can have some way of bringing in new groups to say, hey, look, we're over here. We have some tools. How do we make small groups and larger groups be able to, to be able to prosper with the tools we have? Because, a lot of times going, hey, these aren't the right ways, let's debate it. Sure, but we don't have enough of a funds, energy, or people yet to anyways, that's my 2 cents. I don't expect anyone to no one needs to be on my same wavelength. That's just the way I see things. And we all are, we're all participating in a lot of these groups. How do we, after all these years, combine our strengths so that we're actually rewarding ourselves and getting more usage out from the general population that we're bringing into this? So yeah, that's my 2 cents. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Duane. Really interesting, very inspiring. I have a bunch of thoughts I could share, but I see Vlad, Marco, and Eric have their hands up. Lisa's clapping a lot. Her hands must be getting tired. I will pass it on to Vlad now. Tadas raise his hand too. Vlad?
Yeah. A few weeks ago, we had a call with Mo and Lenny, and there they explained what exactly do they like and what do they want to implement in the fractal process. So their idea was to have such meeting as we're having right now for each working group, for each circle. And they wanted to increase the amount that they distribute per week to all the contributors, which I think is pretty interesting to see whether people will start actually contributing more if there are more funds at stake. But in regards to using this meeting that we have to invite more, or to invite Eden members to this meeting in general, I think it's a good idea. I mean, this meeting could serve as a learning sort of point before they start with the working groups. They could feel the process, how it works here, and then transition to doing the same thing in the working groups. I think this is the place where our dear delegates should give a clear signal. That should be make a formal invitation to the Eden members or not. Yeah.
Should we have a show of hands?
Well, according to the process, there should be a poll. But I mean, if there are enough delegates right now, we could vote. I'm not a delegate, so delegates decide.
I'm a fresh delegate, so who else?
I'd be in support of that as well. And I see Lisa keeps clapping. If any of you guys wants to quickly voice their support for that idea, I think it's best to discuss the best way to do it, like what exactly they should say. But I think that's a great idea that delegates could come together and formally invite Eden EOS community. That sounds like a great outcome. Noam, you want to add anything there, or do any other delegates want to share their thoughts about that briefly?
I liked Vlad and Duane's speech so much. I don't think I can add. I just want to vote for what they suggested.
Sounds great. Well, I think that Duane's proposal might have kind of done that. It wasn't so specifically worded as Vlad said about the delegates forming consensus, but there already is also the poll. I didn't vote for the poll though because I thought it should be both options, that we should help them start fractals and that we should also invite them here. So I didn't want to pick one or the other.
That's what I thought before I heard Duane, but what Duane said made a lot of sense. Let's get together, grow, even if it's temporarily, and then we'll have a better sense for how we should split.
Cool. Sounds good.
So that's pretty much convinced me that yeah, we can go for both options, and it makes sense that the split should happen after we've tried it a little bit together.
Okay. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Noam, and thanks for jumping in with that. Although we do have 4 people raising their hands, so I'll pass back here. And yeah, if you want to share more thoughts about that, then please feel free to raise your hand. Very interested to hear more. And if any other delegates want to voice their opinion about that, then feel free to raise your hand and share as well. Marco's been quite patient, so I'll pass it on to Marco now. And then Eric is next.
Actually, Vlad following Duane kind of makes me, what I was going to say, irrelevant, but it's an important enough topic to hit from many angles to make it the most resilient. All right, so I wrote in the chat, traditional governance, hypha, Eden, and EOS share something in common. And that's the opportunity cost. Opportunity cost generally is thought of by corporations and large investors. Rarely is it thought of on the contributors, members, stockholders. Why should a stockholder invest their time researching a company? They're not getting paid for it. It's not a problem with Fractally shares. You come to Fractally, you get a reward for participating. And Vlad's mention of increasing that reward to see if there's more vibrancy in the community, I forgot the exact words, which follows off Duane says, and somewhat to what I've been saying, getting the community more involved with tangible stuff. Now, to drive the point home, Americans know that voting is more like a dream than it's reality. The idea of voting didn't start here. The idea of political parties, as you can see, elections are now international for people that don't even live here or have any intent or maybe even want to partake. The reality for Americans is owning firearms, the right to bear arms. And that's what Fractally does. When you come here, you're getting a token. That's something you can act upon. Eden right now isn't focused, neither is hypha, is focused on something that everybody who takes the time to put in the effort can act upon it. It's important to point that out, because if Fractally doesn't share a common traditional governance with the rest of governance in the world today, but hypha and Eden do, those are questions that they have to answer. We don't.
Very interesting points. Thank you very much, Marco, for sharing thoughts about Fractally, Eden, EOS, and hypha. You can get more in detail there. First, I'll pass it on to Eric.
So I think opening up the party is a great thing and good. I just say you have to be very cognizant when you bring 2 groups together, because the groups have established a rhythm and a method. So, you know, the typical group is find out what each other wants and what they don't want and why is a very important part of the process of just saying, what do you want, what don't you want, and why? And you have to merge that into kind of a norming of a group, kind of a new normal. So mentally, we would have to be prepared to unstick ourselves from where we are and change. You have to realize that, this is an organized group, has their own way. So I wouldn't expect that we're going to be our way and we're going to tell them what to do. So, you have to be prepared to unfreeze our group until it comes to a new normal. And then once that happened, things move ahead pretty fast. So typically we call that forming, norming, storming, and performing, just if anybody's interested on groups dynamics. So I would just keep that in mind, that if I'm for it, but if we want to do it, I would be prepared, say we need to be prepared to unfreeze ourselves from where we are, talk about what they want, have those discussions. Frankly, what do you want? What don't you want? And it doesn't have to be the two groups. It could just be everybody. This is a good time for everybody to reset what they want, what they don't want, and why. How do we get that together? Okay, it forms a new culture, a new normal. Then people start doing all kinds of activity, and then eventually that activity turns into real results. So hope that perspective is helpful.
Yes, that is a very helpful perspective. Thank you for the wisdom, Eric, very much. I saw Rosmari, I think, give a thumbs up, if I'm not mistaken. And I suppose we have hand up Rosmari and Perry after Tadas, so I'll pass it to Tadas now. Happy to hear any more thoughts about Eric's, Marcus, and everybody like that. If people have thoughts, then feel free to raise your hand, but just want to make sure that everybody has a chance to speak, so I'll pass it to Tadas now.
Okay, so I have 2 points of view and we are kind of conflicting. So the first is, I think regarding inviting Eden people into these meetings, I think we already kind of did something similar with Alien World. I don't remember in the beginning any people from Alien Worlds, or at least any people who like were talking about Alien Worlds in the beginning of Eden Fractal. And yeah, but then people started from Alien Worlds community, we started joining Eden Fractal, and people from Eden Fractal got interested, and we created a fractal for them. So a similar thing could happen here. So logically, for me, it makes sense also to start by inviting Eden people. Then we would see like how many join. Is it worth it to even for them to even create a new fractal? Because if not enough people join, because we have to do this every week, so it's not certain that enough people would be able to join. And yeah, so on the one hand, this makes sense. On the other hand, my other point of view is that I kind of would like to distinguish Eden Fractal from Eden on EOS at this point, to distinguish Eden Fractal as being a separate DAO from Eden on EOS Fractal. I think on chain this is true, but the reason, yeah, but on chain this is true, but if we start mixing together, there can be all kinds of interpretations, like legal interpretations. And then imagine if Eden on EOS, for example, in the future does something that that gets attacked in legal terms, like then by association, if people interpret Eden Fractal as being part of Eden on EOS, for example, we become liable as well. And in general, I don't see any good argument for coupling Eden on EOS at this point to Eden Fractal. I don't see a point in coupling these together, because people can collaborate from both DAOs either way. So I don't see any added benefit if we phrase Eden Fractal as being part of Eden. And if we, yeah, so that's one thing, how we phrase it, how we claim ourselves to be. If we claim, I think first of all, I think we should claim that we are separate now from Eden on EOS. But there is a second thing is how it will get interpreted, and if we start mixing together, I guess there is a bit of risk of us being Eden on EOS and us being the same DAO, especially because we share the name. So yeah, these are some of the concerns.
Really good points. Thank you very much, Tadas. Again, I have a lot of thoughts I can share there, but we'll pass it on to Rosmari, and then Perry is next.
Thanks. I have a few points, and going back to Duane's speech, which was inspiring. It makes me think, like, what's the point of appointing a delegate if most or if not all of their funds go away from them? This makes them a form of a conductor in my eyes. And then, which could be a good thing, but also, and I also agree with Eric. I'm thinking about, talking to Eden EOS first and see what they would like to achieve in the meetings. Perhaps better start training them in separate meetings and more precisely training their appointed circle leads, into how to lead fractal process inspired meetings. So also, to ask them why they want to join in Fractal and like combine the meetings and like what they want to get out of it. And actually what they like about in Fractal and what like makes them want to join and like merge the two. Because I got like a little, I didn't get like as much background information on why. So perhaps like a conversation would be a good start. And also, I guess like deciding on topics as well. Like if we were to merge two, like inviting people, we can invite people, but what would the topics be around? And I guess we can use consortium to decide on topics and like upvote and like signals and probably other tools. But again, like thinking about the alignment between the two groups would be useful. And yeah, what Tadas also mentioned, like, is Eden Fractal part of EOS is a good probably discussion point. And also, yeah, how much parity there is between the two and how much sense it makes to couple them together. Just getting like more of the details on their side as well. Like, of course, I want Eden Fractal to grow and it's great, but like just thinking about like what are we gonna get out from the meeting and the synergy between the two groups, and if we want to act as one, like shall we then change the whole purpose of this meeting, and like all sorts of questions. So, and I really like the Eric's comment about forming, norming, storming, and performing, and we probably is a good point to think about those 4 stages of collation. Just made those really, but this is my opinion. And I guess if we have to pass on a proposal, I can get the question around to me later on. For now, I'm just gonna stick with these thoughts. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, Rosmari, for sharing your thoughts. This is really interesting discussion. I see Perry unmuted, so I'll pass it on to you, Perry, in a moment. I just want to recap just a couple of comments in the chat. Lisa was asking, can't we invite Eden for separate? And then Noam had responded, I think we should. We're inviting Eden on EOS members to join us, not suggesting a merger. That's what Noam said there. And I see Noam still has his hand, so I can go more in details. And that's also Duane's proposal, or it wasn't a proposal, a formal proposal, it was just a topic saying, should they participate? Should people participate? So I don't think, I mean, it seems like most of the discussion is just about, oh, and I see Tadas wrote it about too, thinking that I think we can just invite, and that's what he'd prefer. It just, Tadas's point, might increase risk of us getting interpreted as being the same. Although that's also true, being that we're both named Eden in the first place, as Tadas mentioned. But just to provide a bit more clarity around that, just to help guide the discussion. I see Perry and Noam both had their hands up. Now they're both down. I think Perry was first, and so first I'll pass on to Perry, and then Noam will be next.
Impressive analysis from Rosmari, I have to say. Very interesting. My impression of the new direction of Eden on EOS, if I could summarize it quite a bit, is that they're lacking a focus on the internal checks and balances of the power of the administrators. And instead, they're focusing on some kind of controls of the members themselves, which is I think the opposite direction. Of course, you need both of those things in the end. But when you're working in an environment of limited resources, you have to make priorities. And what is the more important priority? In my mind, it's setting up these checks and balances of the administrators, because that's where the moral hazard exists, because that's where the control of money exists, and that's the primary focus. This is similar to the way governments check and balance their power within themselves. For example, in the U.S., to use the United States as an example, the Congress serves as oversight to the appointments made by the executive branch. In our group, that would be analogous to delegates serving to oversee the decisions made by CDs. So if we overlay that to what is being proposed right now on EOS, if the CDs are going to be accepting projects, then the delegates should be tasked to oversee those, and we're separating those powers. I don't see those kinds of checks and balances in place to my satisfaction. I think that's the wrong direction. In addition, because of the way the salaries are being divided within the circles, and a large portion of them are being set on a more or less fixed, it's not exactly fixed, but let's say it's a fixed ranking. They're creating these administrative positions where they're insulating themselves from the fractal process itself, which is the entire point, which both of these groups, our groups are in their group, or it's really everybody's group, because most of us are part of both. But between these two groups, it's the thing that is common to both. It's the reason why Dan created this thing in the first place. It's the reason why hundreds of people showed up at the beginning. And it's the diminishment of that, I believe, is the reason why we had one of the, I believe, the lowest election turnout in history, because that's being diminished. And I think some group of people needs to be the keeper of that flame, needs to focus on that, because that's the thing that has the true value. Our ability to crowdsource our contributions and value those among ourselves, in a relative sense among ourselves. That thing that has been born from software companies and other groups that have been using this agile, what they call an agile software process of meeting regularly and evaluating each other, and then and putting it on blockchain and combining it with a tournament style play. This is the gold, and some group has to put themselves in a position to protect that. And if that means that may mean forking, and who knows, can you stop other people from joining, or should you? I don't think you should. whatever it takes, even if it requires forking, whatever it takes, there should be a place where those values, the appreciation for that is exalted, is valued. And I think, to summarize, I think this is a good time for a mission. A mission is really would say a lot to our own group and to other people coming in, whether they're from Eden on EOS or others. If we had a clear mission that stated things like that, this would be less of a concern, and we would be welcoming people to enjoy and contribute to our mission. Right now, we're all just kind of looking at each other like, what do we do? What do we do?
Very interesting thoughts, Perry. And what we'll do now is first I'll pass it over to Noam, because I think Noam had his hands up before, and then Mark has hands up. I also have some thoughts I could share at some point too. Noam, do you still want to share your thoughts or no?
No, I already did on the chat, so
okay.
You summarized them very well, so I'm fine.
Okay, great. It sounds good. Also, I see Rosmari gave a flaming heart there. Cool to see all the passion here. Tadas has a hand up again. Lots of interesting ideas. I'll save my thoughts for a bit longer. Also curious, at some point would love to hear more from Duane. Haven't heard from Jorge or Lisa yet either. Would be curious if anyone else wants to share their thoughts or share more thoughts. But first I'll pass it on to Marco. Thank you, Perry. Thank you, Perry, very much.
I actually agree with Perry on the checks and balances thing. There's a joke though in America that the beauty of the system is that nothing gets done. And likening what's going on in EOS is more like trying to get the first plane off the ground as opposed to setting up air traffic control. You know, and the thing about that is it's riddled with lessons. The first lesson is that there was not much of a difference between the Wright brothers' success and then the ridiculous amount of resources that Langley had in trying to get it off the ground. It was such a small difference, which here is kind of what Fractal has, a small difference. The other lesson is that as soon as as soon as the Wrights taught everybody how to fly, all the money started pouring in, and engine developers started making lighter things, and they kind of blew the Wrights out of the water. So keep those things in mind. Yeah, I like the idea of checks and balances, but why would you build that if you haven't gotten the plane off the ground? If we could show that Fractally is actually a working product to solutions that they're trying to achieve now, then maybe we can incorporate checks and balances for larger things. But I don't think anybody's going to believe that. I don't believe anybody believes Fractally solves what they're trying to solve now. They see it as an adjunct. So maybe that's the way to go. But as soon as people catch on to the weekly meetings, pop-up meetings, as efficiently as it's being done here, and maybe it's as simple as getting everybody NFTs into the Eden process or whatever, so they have something that they can see that they're building on. As soon as they get it, and as soon as the people start to flock there, given the resources, who's to say they'll still respect what we're doing here? Why don't I think they see it? Well, simply that's in the chat. Simply the way they respond and inclusion into the decision making. There's a saying with your pilot, if you have a corporate pilot, is the reason why you put them so high in the order, in the ranking order of the organization, is to keep them in the communication process. If you're going to be traveling and stuff like that. Now, if we're going to be building something, if you have a planner or somebody building out a blueprint or whatever, the building, you keep them out of the communication process, what you're doing on a regular basis. Something very simple could be missed that could have been gotten early on and could even have a flaw in it. So because we're not, because they're not coming to us, shows that they don't have the kind of respect for the results we're doing. It's just like an adjunct. And again, if we had the checks and balances in place, this will be a moot point.
Really interesting. Thanks, Marco. I was just looking up adjunct, something attached to another independent or subordinate position. So yeah, and yeah, thanks for the analogy.
Kind of like feature, but we do, you know what? I do bring this up and I forget this. We have the level 1 delegates, so we're at it. And I bring that up, and I always bring it up on the back end of the conversation when I'm talking to even EOS or other things. And that was a brilliant implementation. That does something. Maybe we just redefine that and maybe push that, because that wasn't part of Dan's mission. People maybe not know about, and maybe that could change the way people think about what's going on here.
Really interesting. Thank you, Marco. I've been writing notes about your response, everybody else's responses. So I think maybe I'll go after Tadas and share some thoughts. If anyone wants to jump in or raise your hand, then feel free to. But right now, I'll pass on to Tadas. I think I'll go next.
Yeah, so Perry made me think of something. Like he said that we shouldn't prevent anyone from joining, and really currently anyone can join Eden Fractal, and anyone can invite anyone to Eden Fractal. Currently that does not cause any problems, and for some reason I don't think that it will cause any problems in the near term, although that's something to think about. But yeah, one option would be to simply, if there are people who want to collaborate with people from Eden or EOS more, we can simply invite them, and we don't need to issue some kind of unofficial official signal. And I think that's kind of what happened with Alien Worlds people starting to join a bit Eden Fractal. Yeah, that might even solve some of my concerns about the interpretations, legal interpretations and stuff.
A good point.
Yeah, for sure. Great point. Noam, do you want to throw any other comments there? Or should I go ahead now? Oh, I see Duane raise his hand, so I'll pass it to Duane first, and I'll go after Duane. Unless you want to go after me, either way works for Duane, whatever you want.
Yeah, I'll just be quick. I agree with everyone. I agree with Perry, Tadas, legal implications. Rosmari's was the most on point. Let's ask what they want. And I took one thing. Assumptions, are bad to make, but the one assumption I made was attending some of these meetings. They did express that they do want to and are going to implement fractal meetings. So that's one thing. So we can flush out, and I'll flush out, and whoever's part of the group, we can all do that individually. We don't really need an organized attack, really. But my sentiment here was they're going to need some hand holding. So I think it's more about this first implementation. So I definitely agree with Rosmari, let's ask for us engage. What do they actually need? And I kind of guessed at 2 implementations, like how to keep, to Perry's words, how to keep people currently accountable. What have you done lately? And maybe that's the pool, instead of just automatically getting the 25% of what you're allocated, maybe that goes into the pool. And then the second further use case would be projects bringing on, how to keep them, accountable. So I was just assuming they are going to do the fractal process. And I just wanted to see if because I know they're going to need some hand holding, do we, and maybe it's just they'll lead and they'll just ask us, it's like, hey, Dan, Eric, Vlad, and Tadas, we need some, can you help us set up our own fractal? And that's probably most likely what's going to happen, right? And I was just kind of trying to flush out, is there just a little bit of opportunity for us to bring them to our meetings? And I did hear Tadas saying, hey, or somebody saying, look, maybe that'll water down our mission and our meeting here. But I thought there'd be enough crossover for maybe it's just a way for us to document how do we do this. And it organically happened with Alien Worlds. We all kind of came in, learned the process, and split apart. So it doesn't have to be that formatted or documented, but it's something to think about when we have groups interested to say, hey, we're going to do a fractal process. There should be a method maybe in the future once this scales that we get paid as consultants just to go over, set up their fractal, give them the tools. There's maybe if we're bringing people in, getting some sort of referral bonus. Maybe if some of these, smart contracts, maybe there's or NFTs, or maybe there's some residuals coming back to the main group. But it's starting to open up these other questions of scaling, right? So we have a group very close to us in the EOS group, kind of knows what we're about already. They don't need too much introduction because they want to adopt this process. And what's the easiest way for it to do this? Do we have a whole separate group like this that's just like, hey, the easiest way to show you how to do this is participate? Is kind of what I was getting with. Like, that's why I introduced even the question, is like trying to poke, is like, is it just easier instead of a couple of us just going to help them, for them just to participate in the current meeting, and then we give them the tools, or do we just go set up a different group? And I'm sure it'll more organically happen, but I just like these, for us after this to have some learnings of like, oh, this is how it happened again. A couple of people came on board, we showed them the tools, we set up a separate group, it's done. But how do we just document and grow from this? Because I'm anticipating all of us want to kind of further this, that we'll bring other groups and we'll have some sort of organic growth, some sort of scaling. So that was the intent.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Duane, for sharing your thoughts there. As I said before, super inspiring. And also, thanks so much for inspiring this whole discussion as well. It's been awesome hearing all this. I'll zoom out a bit. Perhaps I see Perry and Noam have their hands up. So if you guys want to go in quick and follow up on Duane, feel free. I do have some stuff that I've been meaning to say. I see Perry got unmuted. Also, I want to make a note of the time. We're at just about an hour that we've been doing the cagendas. So we've been here for about 2.5 hours, and usually we wrap it up around maybe 3 hours total. So maybe we'll try to wrap it up within the next half hour or so. We can go longer if people want, but good to respect people's time. And we also had the other two topics on the agenda about the open mic nights and Center for Governance, and about certifications, which I think we can probably save for a future time. But anyway, I see Perry got unmuted. So Perry, do you want to add anything like that, or anything after Duane's thoughts, or Noam, or should I go ahead now?
No, I'd love to respond to what Duane said. I just want to highlight, I want to put us on alert as to what the actual fractal process is or is not in Eden on EOS. Number one, we have to remember that the bulk of the money, the whole point of the thing, has changed towards a third party giving funds to projects, which is completely separate from Fractal itself, or the money, right? So the Fractal process is going to be used in the administration of that. And when we look at the circles that are tasked with the administration, we can see that the top three positions, there have been identified top three positions: the lead, the organizer, and the secretary. And we can see that those are going to be getting a fixed rank, and then they're going to double dip in that fixed rank. And when you add those fixed ranks and the double dip of the fixed ranks, and then everybody else is going to share in a free market, just a regular fractal as we know it, fractal ranking, where we're all ranking each other. So the bottom rankings is what's left after this double dipping of these administrative positions has been satisfied. So I would say that we need to really find out exactly what that means, and I think what we're going to see is that it means that the fractal ranking process has been minimized, and it's really just fractal in name only.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Perry. I have some response to the more details about that. I've met several times with the chief delegates and the tech working group, and have had quite a bit of talks about that, so I can also provide a bit more clarity from my perspective. And I see Noma's hands up first. If you want to jump in, Noma, before I go, then feel free. I'll probably take a couple minutes just to go through some of my thoughts here. I suppose I'll go ahead. I don't hear Noam responding. Okay, cool. So yeah, Noam, you can go after me. So yeah, a lot of good points. To Perry's points about the administrative systems, I agree, and it's good to separate the powers, and also like the fractal process. It's really, I think it's. I have great respect for Eden on EOS and the election process, and it's totally changed my life, and it changed many people's lives. And sometimes people say that they don't see the products or the creations of Eden on EOS, and they act as if it's not successful. And to me, that couldn't really be farther from the truth. I mean, it could certainly be much more successful, and there's a lot of things that need to be improved. But it's been like profoundly beneficial already and inspiring. Eden Fractal, bringing me together with everybody here. I didn't know anybody here before that. Inspiring me to start Eden Creators, which is the media outlet where I'm mostly focused on now. We've made so many cool videos and shows. It's helped inspire Vlad and Tadas to build amazing tools. Alien World Fractal to bring in a lot of the stuff that Eden on EOS has started to pioneer. Obviously, it hasn't been all directly from Eden on EOS, but it's inspired a lot of these things. Also, EOSBs, EOS support, all these different communities. And I was actually thinking about making a topic today. I really appreciate Duane making the topic and leading the discussion. It worked out really perfectly and inspired an awesome discussion hearing from many people. But the topic I was planning to propose, maybe I can save another one, is calling the roots of Eden, and that's partially going back. I think what Perry was saying a bit about what are the roots of Eden, what are the most helpful parts of Eden. That I think in many ways the Eden on EOS chief delegates right now are kind of overlooking some of the roots. And then secondly, like I see Eden on EOS and Eden as a fractal in general, like kind of like a tree. Like it's learning from nature, it's biomimetic, and trees, like they have seeds, and you don't necessarily see what the seed grows if you're not paying attention for years, because sometimes it's growing roots underneath the surface. And like there are so many amazing things I see that Eden on EOS has already done really well, and Eden Fractal is already doing really well, and it's a matter of sharing what we're doing. That being said, Eden Fractal, I think in many ways, has done a lot more than Eden on EOS. I mean, it's hard to say because Eden on EOS is doing incredible stuff, but like Jorge made a very interesting point a few weeks ago, a few months ago, in the Eden on EOS Telegram group, saying Eden on EOS has raised approximately $2 million worth of funding over the 2.5 years, and we've had just over a year with Eden Fractal, and it's provided a huge amount of results. Like there's more communities using the Eden Fractal software now than the Eden on EOS software, with the Alien Worlds community, the Aquadac. Well, Aquadac's not using the software yet, but they're playing the game. So I'm not trying to compete with Eden on EOS in that term, because I have great respect. And I don't think it's a matter of saying who's on more or whatever, but I just think that that's something that, like Marco was saying, that people in Eden on EOS, I spoke with Mo, who's the chief delegate, about this. He saw it more as an adjunct. He saw it more as a piece of the puzzle. And yeah, it's a piece of the puzzle. We should also work with hypha and all these different communities and all these different tools. No one tool is sufficient to do everything, but really what we have with Eden Fractal and Fractally, as Marco was saying, is like we have a really comprehensive system that can really greatly help communities cooperate in all kinds of ways. And many of the people in Eden on EOS don't see that. And so we should communicate what we're doing and how it's so helpful. Like Perry was saying, most of the funds that they're proposing are like 80% of it, 70% of it is going to administrative circles like leads and stuff, whereas it's not really putting that much power towards the fractal process. So I've met several times with Mo and Lenny in last term, and I also met with the Adania team, with Vlad and Tadas. I gave a presentation to the Eden Tech Circle, where I was with Luca and Sachit and about 12 different developers in the Eden community, and I gave about a half-hour long presentation running through all the Eden Fractal tools and how we can provide it with them. And I've spoken with them a few different times, looking forward to discussing them more. I really appreciate their interest in it, but I think that we should advocate to just show how helpful these tools are and all the great things that Eden Fractal tools can do to help Eden on EOS. To simply answer Duane's first question, I think we should definitely invite people to Eden Fractal from Eden on EOS. I think it makes no sense for these communities to cooperate. All the people here, like they're in some ways like it of the same oak or something like that, like kin, like we're all together, we're all one big community. To Tadas's point too, I'm also concerned with the liability issues that are introduced by the changes that Eden on EOS are proposing. And so I agree, we shouldn't have a merger. It's best to be independent. You can't be a DAO if you're not independent, really, because then you're not autonomous. But it's good to be independent, but it's good to invite and be friendly. And like Rosmari was saying, and several other people mentioned, like just see what we can do to help each other and stuff like that. That's kind of the whole idea about increasing the independence of Eden members and so forth. And also to some extent, like I don't want to merge it too much for that liability, but also like I've been building these brands with Eden Creators, Eden Town Hall, Eden Fractal, and so forth. And no matter how much we say on chain they're different, like people could still have, oh, they're the same thing or whatever. And so what I'm aiming to do is make an alternate proposal for the chief delegates and the Eden EOS community this season. One is just inviting people to these meetings, and we do every week. There's just only so many people in Eden EOS who are interested in coming. I wonder why they don't come more often. Rosmari put out some great posts in the Eden on EOS public group and the private group, so everybody's welcome to join. I encourage everybody to invite people to this event and ask them and just discuss how we can best help. And then also, in addition, I think that we should aim to empower the Eden EOS community with the Eden Fractal software and allow different working groups to have their own benefits of like the localized benefit. So one of the things that the Eden on EOS chief delegates of last term stripped away from the fractal proposal that they were making, that they shared with me, is the idea of respect. They saw it just as a fund distribution mechanism, just to send out EOS every week. And like Vlad was saying, they're planning on giving out more out EOS. They're planning on giving out 250 a week, which is great. That's more than we give out. So it's great to see more tests in there. But if you read the fractal white paper, the first like 10 pages are about respect. And that's because respect is a really important concept. And it's also a powerful primitive that allows people to cooperate better, much more effectively with much better signals than if you just have somebody meeting once every 3 weeks or 3 months rather. With that, we can do signals games or a fractal DJ or like different things to reach consensus about moderation. There were some moderation issues where Mo had deleted posts from myself and Rosmari in the public group where we were trying to promote our projects related to Eden. There's a big lack of consensus in Eden on EOS right now because the current system, while it's amazing in so many ways and I love it in so many ways, it's limited in that it's just picking leaders once every 3 months who aren't necessarily acting with consensus for everybody, whereas Eden Fractal tools can help the Eden on EOS community reach consensus far more effectively. And not just the Eden on EOS community, but the circles. So Mo and Lenny, one of the things that they did was amazing, I think, was bringing together these working group circles, which I participate in a lot of them. There's a tech working group where there was like 12 different builders, or maybe more, 12 great builders like from the Adania team and Luca and the Upvote team, and also Sachit with the NFT reputation system. A lot of builders who aren't participating in Fractal meetings but are kind of aware of it, but they're going there meeting already. So my like proposal is like start up a tech fractal, or don't even call it a fractal if you don't want. Like you could just say this working group, you play social consensus games, and now we have tech respect or dev respect or something like that. And then this is a group that's already going that has a bunch of amazing developers that we can just take their meeting and just empower them to make it more organized and more fun and give them more power to come to consensus with the tools that we already have. To Marco's point too, like Eden Fractal was created by Dan Larimer, who is the mastermind. He's a genius behind Steam and BitShares, or behind Steam and Hive, rather, the first social media application. Behind BitShares, the first trading like DeFi application in blockchain back in 2013. He talked with Satoshi about Bitcoin. He was the main visionary behind EOS, main visionary behind Eden on EOS, and he developed Fractally, which we've been refining and putting into practice for over a year. Like this should have more attention amongst the Eden on EOS community based on one, Dan's track record, and then two, just all the stuff we've been doing and all the amazing things we've done. And what we need to do is just get better at explaining that both to each other and to Eden on EOS and the wider world. Because in addition to attracting Eden on EOS, like we should attract more attention and funding and support from the EOS network as a whole, from more communities in the Antelope community. Like it's amazing what's going on with Alien Worlds, and that can benefit so many more communities, and then the wider world too. So I think a big part of it is just showing these roots, showing how it's so helpful, things that we're doing, and showing why it's so beneficial. Eden on EOS is a perfect like partner, like for right now as we're getting started, and we can collaborate as a wider Eden community to help the Eden community to see as much as possible. So there's more I could share. It was really great hearing from Eric and Vlad and everybody like that. I agree with Tadas' point. I don't think a formal invitation is necessary, but we can just informally invite people, or if people want to do a formal invite, that could work too. Also, Tadas' point too, it doesn't actually have to be a weekly meeting. You could even do bi-weekly, but the Eden on EOS working groups are already meeting weekly, and some of them are pretty good. Like they're 8, 12 people consistently. I think only one of them, maybe the tech group is the biggest, but there's a lot of attention, a lot of really smart people there who we could really help. I have a bunch more notes, but I will just keep it here. I think Mo also mentioned that he was interested in having some collaborations with the Eden on EOS chief delegate meetings at the Eden Fractal meetings. Usually Eden Fractal meetings have higher amounts of people here, and we have it longer. We have more organization in some ways. I mean, the ones on Thursday are awesome as well, but like there's just a huge amount of room for synergy and collaboration, both in the membership and the tools we use and all that stuff like that. So I think we should definitely invite them here. Or invite us here because we're all part of the same part. And then also, I do think that like we should, like, I'm going to be advocating a lot towards the Eden on EOS community and especially the chief delegates, to change some of the stuff that they proposed. And I think those are good to discuss at future ones, because Perry made some points about like talent leaving the Eden community. Chris Barnes, who's been a chief delegate like 4 times, he said he was going to leave the Eden community because the bylaws, that was too much about liability. And Waxa, who's another chief delegate, like these guys have invited like more people than anybody to Eden on EOS, and myself too. I have all of these brands, so it puts me in a little bit of a difficult situation with the current proposal. So I'm also going to be advocating for the Eden on EOS delegates to adjust the bylaws, and we'll see. I want to collaborate as a unified Eden and work together as much as possible, but I think that we need to share what we can do so helpful, invite people to our meeting or just discuss with them. And then we have the Eden Fractal open source software, and people can join 5 meetings a week with this. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, people are already joining 5 meetings a week. You can play consensus games here, and if you already have people meeting, then we can also start Tech Fractal, Media Fractal, and so forth. And then Eden as a whole can grow with all the great things that have been proposed by the chief delegates, and also focusing in on the things that are most helpful. And one of those things is this fractal software and all the shows we're making, all this great stuff that people are doing here. So that's a little bit of my ramble. I can go on more, but thanks everybody for listening, and I appreciate it. I see Noam said we can appoint Dan and Duane, one delegates, as our ambassadors. Tell them as we're welcome to join us. We could do that too. I'm happy to do so. Jorge said he had to go. Thanks everybody for listening. Perry asked, what's our mission too? Oh, to Perry's point too, I was also thinking about this with Vlad and Tadas, thinking about using Cignals app to get mission, and then also proposing something called telos sessions, which is like it's a maybe a 3-week event that Tadas had kind of helped inspire, where we could use fractal process to come to consensus about our mission. Maybe I can propose that for next week. And then there's lots of other comments, but I've been speaking for a while, and I see Noam and Duane have their hands up, so I'll pass on to you guys, and then maybe we'll wrap it up in the next 15 minutes or so. But yeah, very much interested in hearing your thoughts and appreciate you listening. Thank you. Noam?
I think that I noticed something that, to me at least, seems like a consensus, that we should invite Eden EOS members to join us, and that's probably the best solution for everything we've been discussing. And since Dan and Duane are already L1 delegates on Eden on EOS, I think we should just we don't even have to vote on it, but we could, if we want to, just tell them to go ahead and invite people and let them know that we have consensus that they should be invited. So it's not just them personally inviting, but our whole community is inviting them to join us. And I just said this myself. I wonder if I'm really reflecting consensus or if I'm just imagining things. So that's all.
Interesting. Thanks, Noam. Yeah, I mean, it depends how you measure consensus. So we have the Eden Fractal formal process for consensus, whereby we'd have the delegates and so forth. So that's one form of consensus, but consensus has a fairly general meaning about like a widely agreed upon opinion. So it depends how you define what is widely agreed upon. I could share some thoughts. Also, Tadas made a good point. Do we need formal consensus too? Because everybody hasn't been inviting them already. But good point. Thanks, Noam. Here's more of your thoughts. And also, Duane has their hands up too. So, and I see Perry raising a hand too. So I suppose I'll pass it on. Noam, if you want to quickly respond to that, or we can pass it on to Duane now. And looks like up to you, Duane.
Yeah, following up on Eric's and I think just recently Perry, the mission. If you look at the similarities of Eden and our fractal groups, it's a way. There's a KYC, get a validation from your peers that you are who you are, right? On Eden, and just one singular step, that verification, and then on fractally, a reputation. Have you been active and contributing, right? Both had other missions at one point. Eden distributing funds, us, what have you done for us lately is how we got to the dishing out respect. But I'm not sure, but I would almost think that those use cases could be layered on to other communities like Alien Worlds and other chains and other DACs and DAOs, especially in the decentralized space, that need to verify if you're a human and want to see some level, if the community actually respects you, that you've contributed, more so than maybe coming over and playing our games. So it's just a challenge for the future. I'll put a proposal of how do we scale? How do we look what our real missions are? So the mission of what you're saying the bylaws are right now, I would propose when I go to Eden, I still see two things. I see a membership group that's validated people that could be a use case for some things. And then, oh, we have a way to distribute funds and we're going to be an incubator. There's still two things there. I see as our fractal here is, Eden Fractally, but all the tools of being able to give people respect because they've done certain tasks or shown up or participated in a meeting. I think both of these groups are going to have bigger success in their metrics of, say, our metrics are just how many people are using the process, how many people have a Eden NFT, how many people get respect as a token, would be, say in alien worlds, a multiplier. If we had a multiplier because you've gone through these different levels, because you have some respect or are a validated member, I think in DAX and DAOs, as we go forward, those are going to be the real value statements that we're bringing. We all want fun and there's games and people can come to us, but I think that's probably, I'm just thinking personally, that's the way we're going to scale the most, is that other DAX, especially in other chains, we have the options of going cross chain now. That's I think that's our biggest use case, is other DAOs need to, especially if we don't know each other, to be able to evaluate, is the people in this DAO or the people in charge of a committee or people in charge of a fund, are they known? Do they go through are they not a bot? They're not AI. And then has the community given us some respect? Is there some, level that they've actually participated? Have they shown up before? So how we carve that out and create missions with the two, things that ground us in both those groups would be interesting. And I know Eric's kind of taken groups to flesh out these missions before, and it'd be one thing like, I think I'd like to help out on as well. Thanks.
Great. Thanks so much, Duane. And yeah, it's really interesting. I think it's one of the value propositions that we are doing with Alien Worlds, like, recommending candidates on kind of eyeke, and that's something we could do a lot more, recommending consensus from groups that people trust, like Eden Fractal. But then also, just to add one more thing, like I envision that like there'll be millions of communities who are cooperating with these games as well, and then all of those games can also provide consensus for other people too. So I think we should go for both, like help spread the games and then also help empower each one. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about that, Duane. If you want to jump back in, feel free. If not, I see Perry and Eric both have their hands up, and thanks again so much, Duane. Really appreciate it.
Well, Duane said something very interesting, quite a few interesting things, but the thing that stands out to me is the sharing of our technology with other DAOs and other entities. And I think right now we have entered this amazing window with the new direction of Eden on EOS, where they've kind of given up a generic path. And I think that opens up a place for a group like us. And I don't think there's anybody more qualified than this group than to create a generic governance and worker proposal system where we create this generic process that any DAO can use, whether it be a future regulated corporation or a completely unregulated DAO for a crypto, whatever the case may be. If they want to decide in a decentralized fashion how to make decisions, how to govern themselves in general, and quite importantly, I would say number one, near number one, if not number one, how to distribute money, because that's what makes the world go round. So I think if we were to create a mission that focuses on creating the software and the means for that, I think we would put ourselves on a trajectory that is valuable to ourselves and the world, and worthy of all the time and energy that we've put up to this point for all of us. What does that look like? Well, I think I just described it. It focuses on the internal checks and balances primarily, and it it allows different parties to check each other's power within the group, and putting at the center of that whole process the fractally ranking system. And does that mean that we add some kind of upvote process? Maybe, maybe not. It may not necessarily be necessary. It may not be necessary. But whatever the case, I think some way to govern ourselves for generic decisions and distribute money, some mission that focused on that would be, I think, a great focus. I don't think that we should be really actively driving people here until we've figured out our mission and we've voted on it, put it in writing, and made it clear this is where we want to go. Otherwise, we're just asking for people to get in front of the parade. Now, that's a term used in the intelligence communities that was born out of the 60s, I believe, in the Martin Luther King era, where the CIA and the FBI would send people into those groups, and they would basically redirect the direction of those groups. Now, I'm not suggesting that that's happening behind the scenes, but what I can say is that our group could be easily consumed or subsumed, is probably the better word, subsumed, by the interests that are now driving Eden on EOS. And that, I think, would be a shame, and I think it would be the final snuffing of this process. And that would be unfortunate. But yet that would be a reason for another fork.
Interesting thoughts, Perry. Yeah, certainly no one snuff. And yeah, we could always fork if needed, but really interesting. Feel free to propose that mission in future weeks. Also, thing I said about signals for missions and telos sessions, I'm very interested to hear people's thoughts about that, what I'll propose in the future, because I think you might be quite interested in that. I see Eric has hands up, so I'll pass it on to Eric now, and then we're almost at 3 hours, so maybe we'll wrap it up after Eric goes. I'd be curious if Duane has any last thoughts, or if anyone else wants to jump in, then feel free to go after Eric, but we could start wrapping up pretty soon. Very interested to hear what Eric thinks. So I'll pass on to you now, Eric. Thanks.
Well, for me, mostly we talk about governance. So I think people are here for various reasons because we're passionate about governance. So why is that? Well, I think for some of us, it's better relationships and community building, just in general. How do we develop communities? And when I'm listening to people, I hear a lot of people talk about communities, and a lot of people do this because they have their own communities they want to take this to and do it. I think it also has to do with better performance. How do you get a group of people? So what we're really doing is, I think we're doing better decision making. We're removing dysfunctions, and we're improving efficiency. So why do we want to do that? I think for a lot of us, it's making the world a better place by making groups stronger, more efficient, more productive, those kind of things. So for me, this is all about coming up with the tools and methods to do better governance. And I think part of the mission from a lot of us here is sharing those tools, facilitating. One is knowledge, letting people aware of it. But I think the other part that we're starting to go on is helping people use those tools to be the best, without saying, here's the one size fits all, you have to do everything. I think we're saying, here's what we've learned, here's how we do it. My hope is that I can take this and put it out in real world organizations. And when I do that, I view this as the R&D tank to fund, to send that money back. Why? Because I want more better tools and methods. So for me, I see lots of these groups hopefully saying, I like what you've done, I want more. So here's some money to put out to this group as an R&D arm. That's how I want to pay everybody here, is by funding money from commercial improvements. And why do they do it? They do it because they get better results, from them. And most of that, I think, has to come first from commercial organizations that are even nonprofits willing to pay for this. Then I think after that, you help organizations which aren't really, don't care. We just want to help make them better people. But, I just find that most things somehow need to be funded. That's just the way most things work. So if we can make people do that by feeling good about what they do and getting it back, have the focus a little different. So, and again, I like the idea of using virtual worlds as test cases. So for me, it's R&D, test case, real world use cases.
Here. Thank you, Eric, very much for sharing those thoughts. Very inspiring. And yeah, I'm also looking forward to we're discussing the open mic night games. So it kind of comes a little bit full circle about how we can use these tools that help people learn better governance and also have fun while doing it in the virtual worlds.
Just pick an open mic night date and go. No more than 30 days from today. How about that? That's the maximum.
Sounds good. I'm down. If you want to pick a date, I don't know if you want to figure that out in the eyeke community chat or in the Eden Fractal chat or here, but I'm happy to schedule that basically when everything gets fast.
About a Friday happy hour.
Friday happy hour.
So that means late East Coast, early West Coast, and we might have to have two of them with the rest of the world too. Yeah.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it very much. And also thanks to Perry for inspiring the Fractal DJ too, because I do think just a brief note on the mission and all this discussion. Like there's so many things that this provides, and one of the things about the telos, the meaning of telos is the ultimate purpose. That's the meaning of telos. There's also a blockchain in the antelope community, but the word telos has been around for a while, and my telos, I said before, has been making the best experience possible. And to me, it's very clear how what we're doing does make the best experience possible. As you were saying, like better governance, it also enables more fun, more collaboration. The Fractal white paper says the future of human collaboration, creating public goods, make the world a better place, so many things. So it's a bit challenging to narrow that to one thing, but I agree there's value in that for sure. And I share the sentiment. I saw Vlad clapped and Rosmari gave a thumbs up as you were talking about helping coming up with the tools and methods for better governance, helping people to use these tools, all that stuff. So looking forward to discussing this more in the future. But I suppose I can maybe stop speaking there. And if anybody else has any other comments you want to share about what Eric shared or anything else there, we didn't get deep into details about the open mic nights or the other topic on the agenda, which I quickly proposed with the certifications for training. But those are also kind of related to what Eric was saying there. And I suppose we can save these for next week's meeting. Some feedback that Patrick shared in last week's meeting was that it's nice to have topics proposed earlier. So if anyone wants to go ahead and propose a topic now or in the next coming days for next week's meeting, then we can certainly discuss that at next week's meeting and future week's meetings every Wednesday at 15:30 UTC. Thanks again so much, Duane, for proposing this topic. And I don't know if we formally reached consensus, but we had a great discussion about it. And I think people were very in favor of inviting people here. And also curious to hear more thoughts about helping them with fractals as well. There was a vote for that, and I think it's a great idea to do both. Anybody have any last thoughts, or shall we wrap it up?
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you very much, Perry. I see Rosmari saying let's wrap it up. Also coming up, Noam with the cool looking hat. I'll get my hat on too. I invite everybody to get a hat if you'd like to participate in our kind of tradition now about putting hats on for the Eden Fractal meetings. We have Eden Fractal 15:30 DC every Wednesday. I'm also hosting the town hall every Monday at 17 UTC. Every other Monday, rather. The next one's coming up on the 17th. And we have the Alien Worlds Fractal on Mondays at 15 UTC. Duane's got something cool over there. What is that, Duane? It's kind of going out. It looks trippy and fractal. And also your background's cool too. I should mention that. That looks pretty awesome. I still don't know what it is though. What is it? Airplane?
Yeah, it's a geodesic thing. It's not really a hat, but it's going to be a hat.
It works.
The Buckmeister cap.
It works. You say Buckminster Filler hat?
Yeah, that's it. You're right. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he's a great philosopher from what I recall. And Duane is looking really cool. It looks especially cool with the trippiness going on with the background too. Duane is like inside the wave right now. But very cool. I've never heard that term geodesic either. I guess that means something. I guess it means something about the world. Anyway, I think I see maybe Rosemary's off camera getting the hat. Vlad, if you want to join us again, but turn the camera on, feel free. Or if you want to just listen, that's cool too. But Rosemary got a cool hat. Noam's got a cool hat. Eric has got a fisherman's hat. Perry's not a bot, as a reminder. And I suppose if you're all ready, then we can go on a count of 3, 2, 1 and say go Eden Fractal. How's that sound?
And you
Good.
got the. I noticed you had the pinky in the last Eden on EOS. You were
Did
going.
Oh, we might have done that in your honor. I kind of remember that a little bit.
The mini dictator salute.
Okay, it sounds good. Well, I'll go with the thumbs up because that's more generally less interpretable in different ways. Anyway, are we ready? For 3, 2, 1, 0. Go.
Eden EOS.
And Eden EOS and everybody. Thank you, everybody. See you later. Thanks all.